Hi everyone, the Mature Simmer here. So let me tell you where we're at. So as you saw, I was just kind of getting things going. Sierra Vista city limits, we're headed back that way. So I am now doing the same thing that I did the other day. And the plan now is, unfortunately, to go all the way across. So I'm going to, at this point, put this down here. So we'll see if it redraws, because it's thinking, well, let me see, if I put this here, then here, there we go. So that's basically the plan I need to get me to cross the border here. So after about an hour of additional testing yesterday, just so people are aware, if you want to try this on your map or if you're having similar issues, you're able to quick travel with trucks. Now, to do that, you can't be in an existing job, so I basically had to cancel this job. And then I went to H. Nogales, Douglas, with just a tractor, and it failed in the same locations both times. And then, unfortunately, the closest I could get, I think, was this Villa Ahmuda. So I had to drive all the way up here, but then I was able to get myself to about here when I finally stopped. So, point being, it did seem to work crossing here, where I got, well beyond the situation here. And again, I don't know how these things merge and so forth. So the other piece that I've played a little bit with this morning, but haven't done anything with because it creates a problem here, is someone did say they tried starting from H. Nogales and going north, and they had gotten to Tucson and did not have any crashes, but they didn't have the Canada map in the mix. If I use their map order, which a lot of times is how you solve these type of problems, and put Canada after the 4 pieces that they had for Coast to Coast and Reforma, because you need the compatibility pack, you also need a mega resources pack with Reforma. There was like a break in the road here and a couple here, so like my Canada connections to the US weren't working, at least on the map, which I assume meant if I drove them, I'd basically hit a point where I couldn't continue. Now that may not be entirely true, and that's similar to some other issues I had where Wyoming and Colorado were not appearing when I had a certain map order, and I had to play with that. And I think I talked about that a little bit in the beginning of the series. So I am going to try, at least, to finish this. My hope, fingers crossed, because obviously I did not go this way. I went this way. But I'm hoping, given, how far I was already in, and knowing for sure that, like, this route, in these cities and all that were present off the base map before, so I'm assuming I'm on base roads here, and I've already left kind of the Reforma map. I'm assuming and hoping that I'm not going to have any issues, and then I can continue and finish my route. And then I'll play around a little bit and see if I can change the Canada position while leaving the map order the way it is and get it to work. So I'll, kind of do the testing I was doing to see if I can solve my problem but still have Canada included in a way that seems workable. So all that is to explain that what I may end up needing to do at some point, if I have routes from here, is it looks like I'll have to route myself across the border here or here. So I suppose I could have, come up here and then maybe come across. So I could kind of play with things and redirect my map, which I've certainly done before if I wanted to go through other cities and so forth. The challenge is going to be now, can I get to Halifax in time? But at this point, that's what I'm going to try to do. And so, once again, we've got a little bit of a detour, but obviously we are going to be continuing down the route or over to the east, so it's not entirely wasted mileage. But that is the plan at this point. So I'm assuming we're going to have a very similar ride to what we did in the attempt to get over here, in that it's probably going to be through some sort of mountain passes and so forth. And that seems to be what a lot of the roads in Mexico look like on the map, are these very windy, twisty things. So, the challenge will be any routes here. If I have to continue to do what I was doing, are going to be a little time consuming and frankly a little tedious, more for me, but probably as much for you too, because you've got to put up with me talking for a lot longer. So I need to get my sim dashboard running again this morning so I can give you those details, because at this point, now that I've got the route set, I will be able to have the mileage. So somehow, amazingly, although I think we were down quite a bit as we got closer, we're only at 3,194 miles. We're about half and half on some of the on the difference between actual drive time and available time. So I'm now at 70 hours and 39 minutes, and I have a total of 146 hours and 7 minutes till I need to arrive. So, about 70 hours, which only is about 7 sleep cycles. So my concern is I certainly don't have a lot of leeway. That was interesting. It was adopt a highway sign, but it clearly was the shape of Arizona. So, let me just make sure that, I'm okay, because I'm headed in the opposite direction that I was before. I'm just like, this tunnel, it's giving me deja vu, and part of the reason it's giving me deja vu is I think I've driven through this tunnel like 4 or 5 times with some of the testing I was doing yesterday to try to solve this. So, the intent is I'd really like to continue the series. I'd really also like to avoid kind of something exploding on it. It also says Arizona tourist information, but I'm in Arizona now that I think about it. Never mind, I haven't crossed into Mexico yet. We did hit the Reforma project that explained that we were, in that location. I guess we can go ahead. We haven't viewed the viewpoint over here because I was kind of in such a rush, but let me take a look. I'm kind of curious. So that's a memorial. So there's a veterans memorial here. Interesting. I'm assuming there's some reality focus, and this viewpoint might actually be around. So once again, another massive strip mine, the lavender pit. I don't know if, lavender I think is a plant. So I'm assuming they're not harvesting lavender by digging into the ground, but I really don't know. So we'll see how it shows. I think we're far across the way there. That's us sitting there on the rim. So the only thing I don't know here, this did say it was Reforma, but obviously we're theoretically in Arizona, and it was relatively short, so I was starting to wonder, like, if it, because usually the SCS cutscenes are JB Hunt. That is a large, large carrier in the US. So, but usually the cutscenes from SCS, are quite lengthy. So the other thing I've got is, we've got about 5 hours, 5.5 hours till we have to stop. I'm going to try to at least get to the point where I'm feeling comfortable that I've gotten onto a point where I've not crashed, because again, I do have some errands to run today, so I definitely can't just plow through this. With over 3,000 miles to go, there's far too much driving to do to get things done. Wow, that is a pink car. Reminds me, I don't know how many of you guys remember Mary Kay, the cosmetics company. At some level, the salespeople used to be able to earn themselves a car, and they were always kind of that pink. And of course, they also had the words Mary Kay on them, which I'm not seeing on that vehicle. Clearly, the map doesn't let me go that way. So, wow. That was not cool, man. This isn't technically a 2-lane roundabout, and he just could care less that I was coming along. So as far as yielding to me, he had no intent. I think I'm not quite straight. There we go. Sorry if you were disoriented for a moment. I've been disoriented for the last day and a half trying to get this run done. So sorry again if I've got a bit of a hop around. I just had a bit of a panic moment for a bit, like, oh my god, am I really recording, or am I saying all this? But it is recording, so I think we're good. I think we're capturing information. It's just at this point, as you might imagine, when you've had just this slew of failures trying to get this thing done, you begin to think nothing you can do is working correctly. So again, I'm praying, hoping that I found us a solution so that we can get this load done eventually, and again, continue on. My intent is I'll probably, if I can, make some changes between this episode or this run. Again, my intent is to finish it in this episode, regardless of the length, but I did split this into 2 because it was already so long. I think the other episode is 2.5 hours as it is. We're probably looking at least this long here.
Go straight on. Keep right, and then turn right.
But unless something really substantial happens and then I come up with some other crazy solution, but I honestly don't know what it would be because there's nowhere else to go in Mexico if what I'm trying to do doesn't work. Alright, commercial vehicles are here. This is interesting. I guess it is, because I think when I went across last time, which is why you can see I've got gaps in the map, I was over in that other lane. So, and that's how messed up this thing has gotten, is I've actually had the thought, which doesn't logically make sense per just technology and computers, that maybe part of the problem I had was because I had taken these weird detours across the border and the game didn't know what to do with it, and that's why I was having the crashes later, because it's like data was missing to show that I was really there. But anyway, the good news is, at least I had one person responding to my situation and what was happening. I was going to say, I see a car was moving out of the toll booth there, so I was trying to be careful. Alright, so I'm going to stay on the roads. I'm not going to get creative.
Keep left, and then turn left.
So, nice little archway or whatever that is. Make sure nothing's coming. Again, I have beat this truck up pretty well. I'm still worried. I mean, the other thing that's going to be intriguing is I'm certainly adding a lot of miles onto my road here. Okay, they do have stop signs. I just wasn't sure. And I'm wondering if I'm going to get the bonus experience for all that. So this may kind of have a silver lining,
Go straight on.
assuming I stay on time, because there is that real possibility of, oops, of having an issue.
Get ready to turn right.
So, all right. So it's going to want me to turn right here, huh? Okay. Just trying to make sure I can swing wide and not have any issue.
Left, and then turn left.
Alright, so you got a Best Buy in town here.
Turn left.
And yeah, I think Agua Prieta was the first town we had on the Mexican side of the border, or last town, the way we were coming. He's moving. I'm worried he's going to get too close to me. Alright, the good news is this is a relatively short trailer. But, yeah, so we'll see how this all goes. I'm assuming we turn right up there then.
Get ready to turn right.
And then we continue somewhere, because we'll be going out of this town onto some other location. Oh, there's folks having a bite to eat. Alright.
Keep left, and then turn left.
Alright. There you go. Suave y rico como el amor de mama. Something about the love of mama, I believe, is what that is telling us. Alright. So yes, we came from the right. Now we're finally getting onto this road, and my guess is 4 hours, 17 minutes. The first rest stop we get to here, I'm pulling over regardless of what I've got going on. Even if I get there with 3 hours or something, it's getting too much, and I want to try to make this as successful as I can with as few penalties as I can. I've still got over half a tank of gas, so I'm gonna leave gas alone, even though I could fill up here. That is a beautiful gas station for getting in and out without difficulty, though, I will say. That is, in hindsight, I'm almost like, ooh, I could have Could have done that, but anyway. So it does look like we're headed into at least some good-sized hills, if not full-fledged mountains. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say with that. I mean, I'm sure I'll find something to go on and on about, but hey, Pepsi truck. So, yeah, I'm going to try to get back into enjoying the scenery, talking to you guys about this, that, and the other thing. Because at this point, yeah, if we rest shortly, we're going to be at like right now, if we were to rest, it'd be 3 in the morning, so we'd be riding in the dark for a bit, but wouldn't be too bad. And once again, we know we're going for a little while. We've got over 4 hours before we have to rest. I don't know how long it's going to take to get to that point. We're still at 3,139 miles, which is probably not surprising to anybody, given that we've really just been crawling through cities, even though, amazingly, we've gone through 3 different cities in the time since I've started this episode. They've just been kind of packed together. Whoa, he is not going to stop. A little bit of floating above the road there, but there's a bit of a change, so I'm sure trying to keep the vehicles glued to the road is probably more challenging in design than is worth the thing of how often are you really going to hit that with cars that you can see that happening with. So the map designers probably said, we're keeping the car on the road, that's good enough. It doesn't need to be in contact with the road, because, you know, that might be an hour of work just to make that little bit perfect. And the guys, the guys and girls who are doing these kind of mods are doing it for the love of the game, not because they're getting compensated. So it's one thing if you're an SCS employee and getting paid, and that hour is something someone's paying you for. But so I'm thinking this is truly a 2-lane road with a pretty wide shoulder, honestly, although it's no wider than the US. I'm just trying to look at this sign. Yeah, I'm sure if I stopped, and it might be people's names, maybe that's who worked on this segment. Because I would imagine, like, if you're doing this road, that's interesting that we've got a road down, or maybe, that's where we've come from, I'm sure. It was like, we obviously haven't gone this way. Like, how is that a road that we've discovered? But foolish me, I think. Yep, yeah, now I see the checkpoint or whatever, so I'm pretty sure I know for sure because I saw Agua Priesta, that's where we've come from. Yeah, let me get my cruise turned on here. I'm not going to go too fast. I'm just going to go 65, so just 3 miles over. But I'm still not sure on these turns if that's still going to be too much. This seems to be a little less of an issue than the other road, which was certainly significantly more tight. But I think this is also less mountainous. They're just spread out. There's bigger, wider valleys, so the road can sweep. Now, what I was saying is I would imagine, like, as you're doing this map, like someone is doing this whole stretch through this mountain pass that we're going to drive between these 2 sections. I mean, it's possible maybe people who know each other will work together and do segments just to lighten the load. But so that may be, what those Reforma signs are for, is that whoever the modders were for this segment of road that we're going on to, that we get information. And it's possible too from if they're actively working and fixing bugs or something, that they might ask people, hey, can you go back, like, what was the nearest Reforma sign you saw? And that way they can, see, because like the other way, and I don't know that I'd be able to tell, that looks like a billboard that, Yeah, and in my mirror it did look like it was a Reforma sign, so maybe it was like just that segment that they did. I don't know. But yeah, now it's slowing me down to 37, so let's not press my luck. But they might tell you, hey, what was the nearest thing, and that way they kind of know, yeah, we need to have so-and-so go look at this because it's their map. And yeah, but that van is, I think, slightly, honestly, floating above the road the whole time. But once again, I'm sure to fix that, you've got to look at things in various angles, and I don't know. Never done the mods, and maybe the regular vehicles do kind of the same thing, because I do know they sometimes do stuff like that. But in any event, I think this might be where I was going to sleep, because yeah, we're at 2.5 hours. Let me just look at the map. Yeah, because at this point I don't know. We've gone from basically 4.5, 2.5, so it's been 2 hours just to get here. We can't get to that point now. Do I want to try to get to that point and maybe like give myself a viewpoint at the end of the day? Why not? Let's do it. Because again, it just feels a little early to rest yet. And I think I can make it. I got 2.5 hours, as I said, so and it's only, kind of around this turn. There's another, I'm sure, Reforma sign if we look in the rearview mirror. Yep. So I do like the fact that like that kind of stuff is rendered, that the game engine does that. It's pretty neat, because it could be just as easy in the rearview mirror to be like, the signpost is there, but you have no idea what's on the sign. And I'm sure at lower resolutions it does turn that kind of stuff off. So yeah, these are definitely getting a little more windy here, and I'm sure. So yeah, maybe right near that gap or on the other side of the gap is where we'll be pausing. But any kind of viewpoints we can get. In reality, I love mountain driving. As far as the views, I don't necessarily love it for sometimes the white knuckle driving you've got, where you're like, got my family in the car, and aside from the fact that I'd prefer to still stay alive, you've got this responsibility of, okay, if I screw up, it's not just me, it's all these people that run the risk of injury or death. So, sorry, not a very upbeat topic here. So we'll just get off of that and move on. But no, I love nature. I love hiking, being out and about, and just seeing the amazing creation we've got here on this planet. So yeah, the viewpoint is right there, so we'll be able to be there. And we just got below 2 hours, so yeah, this worked well. But the thing is, it's got us, another, it'll be like another hour, because we were at like 6:57 or something. Oh, here's another one of those. Well, maybe this will tell us like what this is. This is going to be interesting to see if I can. Alright, San Luis Mountains Pass. Alright, so there you go. Just kind of going to float. So I guess we're going into Chihuahua, Mexico there. Kind of a twilight here, so we can getting a little harder to see. That is just a beautiful kind of way the sun is painting the hills just over the horizon there, over the mountain. Cool. Not a bad time to take a look at this. So I'm thinking this is coming from the other direction. Yeah, so it's the sign from the other way, and I guess we have a little bit of room. I was worried about how easy it's going to be to, there we go. Alright, whoops. Because, yeah, if I can... Let's let's rest. Sorry about that voice issue. Whoops. That's not what I wanted. That's not resting. Alright. I thought that was giving me the rest point, but it was just telling me I could do the viewpoint again. So, no, please, come on. Give me... Where can I sleep? Why is it not triggering? Oh, this is not good. Yeah, I'm like way past. Alright, let me... Well, this is going to be disappointing if somehow now I can't sleep here. I mean, it's indicating there's a rest point. I'm just hoping it's like closer to that table. Alright. I have to be really careful here because I obviously don't want to go, oh boy, sliding off the mountain. I'm not sure how sharp I can make this without, again, causing damage to the cars. But this is kind of what I was worried about, is like trying to position myself here. Well, that's not what I wanted to do, because I think I just reversed myself. I guess I moved a little bit. It just doesn't appear. Oh, I see, because I'm sliding, because I'm jackknifed. I just need to clear this. I think I'm good. Alright. So, come on, give me a trigger. Oh, come on. This is really unfortunate. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave the trailer here, and I'm going to drive around this space and try to find a trigger point to sleep, and just sleep. Because in theory, I can do that here, but obviously I'm not finding it. And it's way too difficult. I mean, I'm down to 47 minutes, so I need to find this soon. See, because I think this is just... Oh, okay. Now, this did say rest. Okay. So there we go. Alright. Problem solved. So now we just go get our vehicles again. Be careful not to run into them. That would be really great. How did you damage our cars? Well, I disconnected from the trailer and then just plowed into them. That would be a great bit of information. And of course, yeah, this is, you know, not telling me anything on the sim dashboard. Alright, so we need to go up and to the left. Let's get back in the cab. I was just waiting to get creamed by some vehicle coming, not from there, but from the right side. It's just happened to us before, so why not? Alright, well, I guess the good news of fumbling around like that is it got late enough that, you know, it's already daylight as we're going here. So, 13 and a half hours. We spent about half an hour reconnecting our trailer and getting back out. Again, probably a bit extreme, but so there's another one of those little shrines. I do wonder if that's like where people died or something on the road, but left lane closed ahead, so we better slow down. Alright, well, it is green, so I'm going to take advantage of that. And I don't know if this is one of those, sometimes things like this, they're like permanent items on the map that are actually added by the modder. They're not the random roadwork that suddenly appears, but I don't know that there's a way to tell, you know, in game without knowing. Like, obviously, if you're the map creator, you can tell because you know if you put it there, and obviously if you did, you modeled it and so forth. Another police car. You can see up there, up above us to the left is that construction space, so if you missed it, you can reverse the video a little bit and take a look. But very, very nice, very cool how that worked. A little bit of a switchback as we're trying to change elevation substantially in a short period. Again, kind of how mountains go. See, this is nice, though. They've got like a nice tall wall. It does obstruct the view, but it makes me feel a lot safer because I've got a wall keeping me from flying off the cliff instead of simply making a mistake and then suddenly careening downhill. So yeah, it's one thing I've never had the desire to try, maybe because I just enjoy the sim part of it, where obviously you're not going to just drive off the road to see what happens. But, you know, I'm imagining there's invisible map barriers down there at some point that you can only go so far down the hill. And then your truck hits a wall anyway, but you probably then can not get out of there and you'd have to basically call for a tow anyway. So definitely not going to try to test that today. I've had enough testing for a few months if I can avoid it, but unfortunately I know I have some more testing ahead of me after this load is delivered to try to get the map in a more functioning state. Because, yeah, there's definitely a few things I can do. It's just then a matter of kind of keeping track of what I have set so that I can put the pieces back together the same way, because I'm thinking I might actually, just to make sure I can recreate it working as the other individual did, I may drop the Canada map altogether in my testing, and then just run that segment, because it's really not that lengthy to do when everything's working. And then, you know, eventually put it back, but, you know, then you've got to get your mods set because the save game doesn't remember that. It just expects a certain order. So, like, when I changed the map sequence, one of the things that happened was the way American Truck Simulator works is if you've got significant changes in version, it basically cancels the load you're on and then puts your truck in a safe space, is kind of what the text tells you, which just means it's parked somewhere. And then you begin anew then. So, you know, I could have done that, but I saw I had a broken Canada map. I might have been somewhat tempted to do it if everything looked in order, but I already knew I had a problem. But then, of course, I had changed the order of things and hadn't written down what I had before. And, you know, with 5 mods, as you might imagine, the permutations for the different orders, there's a lot of them if I have to manually try them and try to find one. But luckily, I just made one quick change. Moved the Canada map up because I knew it wasn't at the bottom, and I thought, you know, it was in the second spot, so that's where I put it. And then when I did the older save game, it did reload with this load present again, so that was good. But yeah, it's now 12 hours, so this took 2 more hours to get here. I talked over her. I don't know which way to go.
Turn
Turn left. Ooh, nice little bull. What does that say? Llanos. Oh, buffalo. Look at that. Didn't know they had buffalo down in Mexico. I don't know, somehow I didn't think that was a deserty type animal. And not that this is like fully desert. There's obviously pine trees and stuff here, but it's certainly drier and hotter. Well, I suppose like the Great Plains in the middle of summer, I guess it's similar. But however it is, they've got a statue of a buffalo. I don't think Llanos means buffalo, but it might. I don't know. It's not a word I know. I'm assuming that's a dry riverbed. But I don't know. So, looks like, oh, I see we've got ADM location out there for delivery or pickup. Haven't discovered a town nearby, so I'm not quite sure how or when that might be triggered. But looks like, yeah, there's the dirt road that gets you there. So we are now below 3,000 miles. We're actually almost below 2,900. Asuncion. So this one should certainly be discovered. It's small, and we're heading right into the center, so another ADM facility. So, and it could be then this town discovers, and then you could get either one of those locations. Wow, it's really going to require me to get close. I'm hoping it's not going to require me to sorry, had a bit of a coughing fit there. I feel a sneeze coming on, so if you hear me go away again. And in fact, I did. What do I have to hit to discover this place? Do you really need to go around the square? I'm not going to do that. I am going to stop at this gas station, however, because now I am getting close to a quarter. Still 400 miles, but at this point, it's not as if there's a reason to just press through. It looks like there's repair available there if we had needed it, but our truck isn't even showing a little bit of red on the wheels or anything, so I think we're good.
Go straight on.
We may not discover this. Interesting. Oh well. Again, not the goal of this series is constant discovery. Obviously, it's helpful, but if I'm running long loads, it's less important. So, but there's the gas station and the repair station. Now they're definitely separating out now that we're closer. I'm trying to figure out how do I get in there? Because there's like that pile of crushed cars. This is... Alright, I haven't done this. I don't know that I've done this on this series. It's too tight. I'm just going to go refill. I'm going to leave the trailer here. But there's no way with all this stuff piled around. I mean, I'm going to have a hard enough time just with the tractor getting in here. I mean, I basically could have pulled in and then backed out. But sometimes I go and do this type of thing to just make it easier and not run the risk of causing damage. And given that we've got fragile cargo, this is what I'm doing. I'm a bit perplexed, I must say. Okay, what am I hung up on here? I don't understand. Oh, that would be what I'm hung up on. I didn't realize I was... am I hung up behind me too? Like now I can't back up? I don't understand this. Alright, I see. We had like fallen into a pothole on the map or something.
Okay, let's find a new route. Reroute.
This is telling me 1,462 miles till empty. It's like we suddenly got higher. Oh, you know why? Because I'm not connected to a load. I bet that's it. I'm assuming as soon as I reconnect to my trailer, it's going to drop to 1,000. Silly me. Whoops. I didn't mean to hit my friendly Peterbilt brother or sister there. But it is what it is. It's not all over now.
Let's do this.
There we go. Exactly what we'd expect. Now it's 1,050. So, mystery solved. Bien viaje. Buen viaje. Bien's a different language. That would be French, I believe. Taken various languages in my life. Not really great at any of them other than one I grew up with, which was Polish, so I'm decent with that, but would not call myself fluent with Spanish, French, German, Chinese, the other languages I've learned bits and pieces of. I've also recently started looking at Italian, but really just started and actually fell off the wagon. When I say I've recently done it, it was in the last year and a half. So, you know, but when you get to be an old geezer like me, a year and a half's not that far. So, let me decrease this to 55. But at this point, it looks like we're coming out of the mountains. Oh, yeah. We are further than I thought. But sadly, we did not discover that town. Just like Juarez is not discovered. But yeah, we're getting to the point where we may say we're past the danger. Oh, so as this starts to draw, obviously the mountains are going to come into view in pieces. So, but obviously as we get closer, I'm sure they're going to look perfect. Oh, a giant solar panel farm. Very nice. Goes, not sure, I don't want to run off the road here. It goes pretty deep. Alright, I'm going to stop doing that. It's probably, again, disorienting to you, and it's going to cause me to drive off this road and fall into the ditch, and those Teslas are not going to be real happy with me if that happens. So I think here we're going to go left. This would have been an easier gas station, but I hadn't looked. Yeah, here's one of the giant ones that would have been super easy to swing in without disconnecting my trailer, but
Turn left, and then keep left.
I wanted to get gas when I could see it, so.
Keep left, and then turn left.
Alright. There was no stop sign, so I'm assuming everybody else needs to stop, and we do not. And I think if I had stopped, they probably would have started moving, so I would have kind of created my own problem. So yes, as part of my testing, I drove this part of the road too. So the good news is I know how to get across the border, so it should hopefully come back to me. I was flying through here, so the other thing I was doing, because obviously it wasn't a game I knew I was going to keep, I had obviously bought a truck, which we haven't done yet, which we're intentionally waiting to do to be able to get something a little bit more capable and we haven't unlocked it yet, but I just, got the basic cheap Freightliner day cab, and then I just drove entirely illegally to just go as quickly as I could. I drove through red lights, I sped, basically as fast as I felt I could go safely, where I wasn't going to fly off the road, but, I was going 80 miles an hour in 30-mile-an-hour zones. If I get a speeding ticket, who cares? At that point I still had, $500,000 or something, and it was like I have enough for fines, and my goal is to just
Get ready to
see
turn right.
see if things work. So, yeah, the turn right is actually up ahead here. So this is it. And so, again, camiones, trucks,
Turn right.
and this is where we go, and we're again staying on the map, which means we're going the right way. And when I went through here the other day, I got to bypass the way station because I had no trailer. So, but no such luck this time. So yeah, this was here, but no icon was here because I didn't need to stop. Alright, we're still 58,000, so that means none of the cars have fallen off the truck. That's important. I'm sure that there would be some sort of penalty for me for losing a vehicle. Aside from the fact that they'd probably just fire me at some point. Hi, Mr. Policeman. Border Patrol, I'm assuming. Alright. So, I'm pretty comfortable because obviously I did the test with just a tractor, and obviously when this was failing I was a tractor and a trailer. So I don't think the configuration has anything to do with whether it works. So I'm not expecting any trouble, and I went way past this point.
Go straight on.
So I certainly wouldn't expect any trouble here. But there we go. Welcome to the United States. So I just keep having different games, different videos. Third time's the charm. Alright, this one we can bypass the way station, which I'm guessing is what's under this canopy here, if we needed. But it doesn't look like the game actually lets us pick up there, but I'm imagining it's kind of a drop and hook location for cross-border things, where basically maybe each carrier doesn't have the border paperwork. It gets processed in those facilities in the center where those trucks are parked, and then one tractor will drop it, the other one will come grab it, and so they'd have you reweigh as you were leaving, because now you're in a different configuration, and they obviously want to make sure you're still legally set up. So obviously, because we went to a prior save game, even though I had driven this, like, we no longer have this discovered. So we get to rediscover these segments of the road, which is fine, all wonderful and good. Alright, I'm going to move over here because that line of vehicles is long, and even though, again, we've got realistic traffic lights, that may be a bit much to hope for. Whoa, God, he scared me. Truly scared. I mean, like, I had, like, panic and chills and the nerve tingles of, like, oh my God, we're gonna have a head-on collision. Okay, breathe again. That was not fun. But I think I remember seeing a Reforma sign here. So I think this is still, part of the Reforma map. But that's why I made sure to get north of Las Cruces by quite a ways. And let's see, is that... Alright, it's going to have us go there. Because, yeah, we're going to see the Texas sign, because we touch a tiny bit of Texas. And then we'll be into New Mexico.
Go straight on.
Amazon Fresh again. I think we had one of those before the end of the last episode when I was like, yeah, we're in America. So we can see the Texas sign across the intersection there. So we're already getting ready to dip into that, even though in theory it looks like we're technically dipping back into Mexico, but it's good enough. We understand. And then we'll continue on. So, lovely, lovely stuff. CNB News, that's not one I'm familiar with, but that just may be a game version. See, now what I want to see, I want to catch those. Well, here, we're close to that car. It's still, although we don't have Texas plates in the game, and I can't imagine they created them for the mod maps. Because I was like, are they gonna, now that we've crossed the border, do the cars change license plates when they cross the border? I've never paid attention to that. So I think this is just to avoid the exit, is all it's telling me to keep left about. And then we're gonna swing up and head north and go to Las Cruces. And then we're gonna take off and head to Albuquerque, I think is what we were doing. So, alright. Well, this is End Freeway, so I guess I was gonna go up to 65, but... So, Mesa's 3 minutes, downtown's 9 minutes. So, I think I'm gonna go left here.
Keep left.
Yep.
And then turn left.
So, there we go. And that's after we go under I-10 here. We're gonna get on it and head up.
Turn left.
But again, I don't think we're on the SCS map yet. Like, we haven't hit the transition point. Because see, we're down here, and obviously SCS wouldn't have done that. So I guess we're going toward Alamogordo, not... Which... Yeah. Which is Alamogordo. But anyway. Now, is this the way... Yeah, it is. Okay, because I think it had us come over here and then up. So... Amarillo by Morning, a George Strait song. I just saw Amarillo on the map there that we'll be going through, and that's a song about, I believe, a trucker driving, and or someone driving. I don't know that he truly ever says it's a truck driver, but you know, it sounds like someone who comes and goes, so it would make sense. It would fit with that profession where you're home for a little bit. Because then he talks about being gone after that. So it could just be, you know, someone who blows into town and leaves and just stopping in to see someone. But anyway, yeah, the butterflies in the stomach are beginning because, once again, we've spent time, yours and mine, trying to make this work. And we're getting to the point where we're going to start to know, did it pay off or not? So, what I don't know here is...
Left. And then exit left.
Alright, so I do get on I-10. That's what I wasn't sure if it was going to want me to go this way or stay on the road. But it's not telling me recalculating, so I'm assuming I went the way it wanted. Because I don't know where it's going to, you know, have me exit. And it might be this exit here. Well, now this one we can't. We're going to see the yellow arrows in a bit, I'm sure. There they are. So, even though it looks like an interchange. Whoops. Let me... Oh no, we're not even close. So yeah, we definitely want to hop over here. And then go ahead. And I think that literally might have just allowed me to turn around and come back. I guess it would have gotten me to the Walmart too. if we needed to go there. So here we're technically now back into New Mexico. Land of enchantment. Only enchantment I want is that the game continues.
Keep right and then turn right.
Alright, yep. So we're going to 70. So yeah, 70 via 25.
Turn right.
So there you go. Project ends. Have a nice trip for Team Reforma. Now, again, exactly where it ends, I don't know, because I suppose this interchange could have been already created by SCS and just blocked off, and all the Team Reforma piece did is allow you to drive through. But again, we're going to Route 70 somewhere, so we're just keeping an eye out for that. This is just the exits for Las Cruces itself. Alright, there we go. 3 miles. Is it worth trying to pass this guy? Yeah, why not? Publix. It is a grocery store in the southern states.
And then turn
When we would vacation in Florida, I'd go to it often, and when I lived in Tennessee, I would also go to it often.
turn right.
Alright, well, I do need to stay to the right, as it said, so I'll fit behind this Keenan Advantage tanker. Again, one of the largest fuel carriers in the U.S., if not the largest. So, there we go, Alamogordo. So this way I had not gone, I had just kept going straight up Route 25 there. But we'll see how this all goes. Emmanuel Lutheran Church. Losing my voice. Not really losing it, it's just the morning frogs. Again, I think this is the SCS map, so sometimes we get a little bit of that, because the mountains don't look like they're drawn quite right, but you know, we might turn away from that and maybe it's therefore kind of ignoring the situation. Alright, I am set on cruise to 70. It's just obviously a big enough hill that the truck is having some difficulty, even with the slightly lighter load. So I can go a few minutes more before I should normally stop and get on my way with my errands. Because we did get some snow overnight as well. As we drive through New Mexico, you guys are all like, what? No, but in the real world here, I've got some snow, so I have to clear my driveway too before I head out. So I'm just going to go a little bit farther and see what I can, you know, just kind of get that comfort that I'm really on the US map and things aren't going to explode. And I'll probably get that comfort just as I then transition to the coast-to-coast map. Now, if it crashes there, we've got a whole other situation, but, you know, I think we haven't experienced any issues with that map, so it just seems right now it's the Mexico map. And, you know, that's what we've been struggling with. Oh, I hate when that happens. Especially now it's slowing down. A little modular office, probably moving to some construction site like Centex. Alright, we still going this way? It's not telling us.
And then turn right.
Do I now need to turn right? Oh, wait. So Oh, okay. Up at the... Probably takes me to the same place, honestly, but... Alright, he's turning. So yeah, I think it wants me to exit here. But I could have taken the other way, but... And that would have basically done the same thing. You gonna make it? Alright. So, you can hear our air brakes applying and releasing back there. So we may not discover Alamogordo, because we're just not headed in that direction. We're kind of going around it. Once again, you know, it is what it is. We'll take it for what it's worth. If we get lucky and it gives it to us as we swing around on the north end of town, we'll take it. We're not gonna say no, but I'm thinking we would have had to go into town to have it discovered, but we'll see. There's always hope. It said Alamogordo's city limits, so...
Keep left, and then turn left.
Is that really accurate? It is. Alright.
Turn left.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Map thing. Map discovery logic. It's a bad day when you're starting to talk to computer code. Is that some sort of a bird statue? It is, but I don't know that I'm going to know what kind. Maybe it's a roadrunner? Could be. Meep meep. Some of you may know what that means, or get that reference. Others may be like, he's lost his mind. Alright.
Go straight on.
So, we've still got 882 miles to empty. No need for gas. Because initially I'm like, well, I don't need gas, but now we're going to be, once again, from now until the end, once I leave New Mexico, we're going to be on maps that... or parts of maps that are not the base game, and so therefore we're going to likely be few and far between with fuel stations and so forth again. 65? 65, so we'll go up to 70. Wonderful, wonderful. Alright. Now I would just be flabbergasted if it blew up at this point. We are definitely on, well on to the base maps at this point. You know, we're going to be heading up toward Tucumcari, and again, I don't believe that gets discovered. You know, and once we do that, you know, then you can see we go to Amarillo, Shamrock, Texas, then we're headed into Oklahoma, where the wind goes blowing through the plains. So that is my Broadway mature simmer coming out. Hopefully none of you are scarred for life. I don't know. If you are, maybe I'll sing more later. Probably not. I don't know any other Broadway tunes that have to do with states that I can think of anywhere we're headed. You know, obviously if we go through New York, you know, we've got like Frank Sinatra start spreading the news, but that's not Broadway. I don't sing often on any series, so consider it a treat for free. Free performance. No ticket charges apply. And whoa, down to 30. Let's be careful here. This is like a giant circle of stuff.
Go straight on.
Fun and sand. That so sounds like a New Mexico thing. Yeah, we want to make it sound like they're on the beach, even though we're nowhere near the ocean. Let's make the desert sound exciting, or instead they could die of thirst, but look at this. They don't have to because we're fun and sand. Alright, so get to move through the New Mexican desert. Scraggly scrub. I don't remember. I know we've talked about tumbleweeds many times on this series. I think we've yet to see our first tumbleweed. I just don't recall what state the tumbleweeds are in. But there's some state, like once you get them, they just keep blowing across the road everywhere. But I'm imagining it's not New Mexico, because this would appear to me, at least for my understanding of the tumbleweed ecosystem, that would definitely be somewhere we'd see them. We've got a train next to us here. Might catch up to it. We might not. So he seems to be moving along, but I think we are slowly gaining on him. It's just a matter of, do we pass him? Does he go under us? Because maybe we're rising up here because he's not going to cut over. We're just going over a little bit of a hill. So I think at this point we're near the back of the train. So we are gaining, and we're likely going to be passing. I really don't want to fall off the road, so there we go, passing the locomotive. So you've got trains, you've got trucks. It's almost like Transport Tycoon, but more graphically exciting. So continuing forward here, I don't know, it's just one of those, like, I still can't feel safe. I don't know that I will feel safe on this run until it's delivered. And even then, now, it's just one of those things, kind of like any, call this trauma, it certainly feels like overstatement, but I don't know how else I'd refer to it. But it's like, when you've been exposed to any kind of trauma, it's just always hard to trust again that everything will be okay. And that's what I've lost with what happened, is I was happily moving along. Again, I had experienced with the map order and so forth, had experienced the issues where I realized, okay, if I leave it this way, like, I don't have roads connecting and I can't get places, and so this won't work. But kind of once I thought I had solved that, I really had no reason to doubt that the maps would work, because I frankly hadn't experienced any problem before that. But now that I have, I don't know how long it's going to take to shake that before I feel comfortable that I kind of at least know what my boundaries are. So right now, if I left things as they are, and that may be where we have to end up, to not eliminate Canada from our ability to drive. But, if I need to leave it that way, I just know I need to cross from Mexico for anything I have in Mexico at that one of those two border crossings that I have been successful at. Because the one thing I haven't tried is, heading south through those other crossings. Like, what will it blow up in both directions? Alright, I think because he slowed everybody down by cutting across, I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of that. Alright, So I'm not sure. I'm gonna think I won't go to the right unless it makes me, because it's a way station, so it might.
Keep left.
Yep,
And then
it
turn
will.
left.
Alright, and then we just pull out and go forward. I always get this messed up because
Turn left.
there's just a lot of stuff happening here. I'll turn left after I get myself weighed, because otherwise I'm going to get fined. So it would be nice if the GPS was like aware that the game is telling you have to go to the way station. I don't understand why it doesn't do that, but it doesn't. So I know this is like an official SCS viewpoint. I've stopped at it before in other profiles. So, yeah, we cycle around and then literally just go straight across. But I'm going to go ahead and stop here. Alright, so back on our way, heading out of here. We just got to go straight across.
Please,
so
make a U-turn when possible.
I don't need to make a U-turn, but
Go straight on.
there we go. So 4 hours and 47 minutes. Now that we are on the main map, I'm going to get a little closer to kind of when I'm at 2.5, 3 hours, I start worrying about resting. But let's see, we've got to go forward for a bit. So yeah, we're going to Tucumcari or whatever it is. And that should get us in a great spot. There we go. Tucumcari is on that sign. That means we know we're going in the right direction. But now what I was going to say, at least for a little while, I'm on the main SCS map, so I should be in good shape. I probably do want to stop and fuel and rest before. Rest is going to be more important than the fuel, because at this point I'm just below 3/4. I have 739 miles still empty. So again, this truck is excellent for that. Usually when I own one of my own, I do try to get a good strong engine, a good amount of fuel tanks, at least 200, 250 gallons. If I can do 300, I do that, because I'd rather have fuel and not have to keep worrying about stopping regardless of what I'm hauling. Because once again, if I've got a heavy haul, which is something that again I do try to target, then I will be burning more gas. So if I have more, that helps.
Keep right, and then
All right.
turn left.
Well, we'll leave the turn signal on. I didn't mean to, but at this point, I need it, so I'll just leave it. And there we go, Tucumcari.
Turn right.
So it is, once again, nicer and definitely a sharp contrast between the expansion maps and these. There's just more signage. You're kind of able to tell what's going on a lot easier. I think I've got 2 lanes here, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of make this turn, and there we go. So crossing the Pecos River. Down to under 4 hours till I need to rest. In real time, it's telling me 2 hours and 13 minutes. That's probably a little more accurate now that we're out of Mexico, because I don't know that Canada really changes much. We're just above 2,500 miles, so not sure how accurate everything is, but obviously, just as we've dealt with before, it will be what it will be. And I'm just keeping you informed, so you kind of have an idea of maybe where we're at. But of course, when you start one of these videos on YouTube, you already know how long it is, so. But gives me something to talk about. How about that? So.
Keep left, and then turn left.
Oh, all right. thinking we were getting on. I guess we are, because Tucumcari is that way. Again, this isn't like I'm familiar with this area of the country, like I drive it regularly or anything, so it looks like here we're going to have an option for a time to go up to 80 if I can get anywhere near that with the speed. Again, it is a truck. While it has a lot of fuel, I think it's a 10 speed only, so I think I'm at my max gear. No, actually it jumped to 12, so maybe it will be higher than I thought. We'll see if it's more than a 12 speed. It is 13, but we're at 56, so obviously if it has more gears to go through, it can accelerate a little faster and might be able to get a little higher in overall speed, but we'll see how it all plays out. Alright, so at this point I am going to take a peek. I should actually be able to get... We'll see where we are when we hit actual Tucumcari there, because I've got 3 hours and 20 minutes right now. I'm thinking I can get to Amarillo, but maybe that's optimistic. Because if I can do that again, I'll be pulling in around 9 p.m. So I'm maximizing my daylight then, which is obviously terrific, because it's more fun to drive, it's more fun to watch, so there's a lot more happening. So, yeah, I continue to be amazed how we've avoided any significant rain. Because I don't remember, maybe I did turn down the rain probability in my settings, but I didn't think I touched that from default. The only thing I usually do with the environment randomness is kind of decrease the detours and the things that pop up, because all that does is extend what we know are already hours and hours long of drives. So there's not really a reason to do that. Once again, if people are suddenly like super interested in it, I suppose I can. It's just going to make things longer, and I don't know that it's providing anything of interest, especially if it's just like they block off the interstate here and make me exit, and then I have to find another way around and extend my route even longer. I mean, it's somewhat entertaining, I guess, if you're seeing some sort of a problem. But yeah, it only took us half an hour to get basically to Tucumcari from where we checked, so I'm feeling better about Amarillo and getting that far, as opposed to resting here. And I mean, it wouldn't have been terrible. It would have been 4 a.m. or whatever when we started, but this will get us a little later in the day, and we may be there before we know it. You know, might only take an hour and a half to get to Amarillo, and then we'll still be, you know, waking up at 6 a.m. or whatever it is. So obviously we're going to have a transition, and we may have already done it, because I'm trying to remember. I vaguely think it's been so long since I've played anything but this series in ATS. It's been months in real time, so I'm starting to kind of lose what the base maps have, but I think Tucumcari was the farthest east point we had, so we may already be on the coast-to-coast map, and obviously once we see any kind of a Texas border sign, we know we're on the coast-to-coast map, because Texas isn't available yet. It's in the works, and we'll be getting it at some point, but that point's not now. I'm guessing that's the archway to tell me I'm in New Mexico, so I'm assuming that sign that is sitting on the side might be the one that told me we were in Texas, and that was "Don't mess with Texas." So now we're on the coast-to-coast map. In this area, of the map also is going to be interesting to me, because unlike the north end of the Great Plains and the Midwest, where there's just a few roads crossing each state, these areas of the coast-to-coast map are more fleshed out. So yeah, I mean, in theory I can go 80, but I'm barely going 60, and I'm not able to handle this too well, so we'll see. Alright, so this is Adrian. It's not Amarillo. We've got 2 hours still, so should be good. So I think we'll make it. It's just, we may be really pushing it. And, oh, look at that. I was just going to say, little towns like this, I may truly need to exit, but it gave it to me. And if we exited Amarillo to stop, although Amarillo is large enough, I'm guessing, the way it's developed on the map, I'm thinking we'll either be driving right through it anyway. It's going to be one of those coast-to-coast things, like when we hit Chicago, we weren't really on the interstate, and we were going through the city and had to slow down. Alright, well now we're up to 70. We were at 77, so we have gotten there. But yes, it's a 13-speed gearbox, which is better than a 10-speed, certainly, so yeah, that is a good thing. Amarillo Boulevard, so maybe we're already on the outskirts here, which would be excellent, and then would be that hour and a half that I was thinking might be a cool thing. So we do have something crossing here. And it is an Amarillo exit, so yes, we're approaching Amarillo. It just really becomes, and there we go, we've discovered it. So, yeah, I want to go to one of these. This is probably the best, because yeah, that gives me everything. So I want to basically get through the center of town, and then the same interchange that I'm at here on this end is where I want to exit. So we're moving along so nicely. He's got a New Mexico plate. He doesn't. So maybe that answers my question I asked a little while ago, is do the plates change when they cross state lines? Maybe they don't. And that would make sense, and so maybe these guys have some sort of Texas plate creation. We'll see what he looks like. He's New Mexico, so he may have come with us across the border. But basically, at this point, I'm going to move over to the right before this guy gets near me, and then I'm struggling because that next exit there, I think, is where we're going to want to exit, and then go to that truck stop that we can see it over on the left. So a little bit of blinkage, but yeah, we're at an hour and 28 minutes, depending on if they slow me down when I exit.
Never mind. I'll find a new one.
It may just go pieces.
Go straight on.
But yeah, we're still half a tank of gas, 562 miles. But we're here, we're going to fill up. We're not going to pass up that opportunity and then suddenly create a situation where I need to stop just for gas, because that just causes more delays with no purpose. Alright, so looks like there's a train track there. So what have we got here? A Texaco, a BNSF. You know, it's always good to see what options we have for new suppliers to haul from. You know, these are always available to haul to, because anytime the game can spawn something and give us that ability to get there, but you can't haul from someplace unless you have discovered that city. So that's where discoveries become important. So we'll fill up here at the Chevron pumps. So again, not necessary, but 217, that would be lovely. In reality, right now, diesel is over $5 in our area, and we are not in a market that is extremely costly for gas. So I would not be surprised if truckers are paying $7 or $8 a gallon now, which is going to hurt, but it's kind of the nature of a key point of the world being at war. So we'll see how that all plays out. Alright, so he can stop yawning now. We are now Friday. Again, we have till Tuesday to get there. So our current stats, 42 hours, 11 minutes of drive time, 107 hours, 29 minutes of time till our delivery window closes. So time that we're expected to get to our final destination. So, doing well. So yeah, that's the Texaco refinery. Pretty big place. And again, everything's big in Texas. So I am really looking forward to, what SES is going to do, but this is a nice diversion in the interim. Well done, and not as dull as the Midwest sections of the map that we've gone through. So we'll see how long that stays. It may actually be pretty good for most of our trip. I think once we maybe start getting into Virginia and places like that, it may start to look a little less.
Turn left.
You can hear the train, which I think is behind us. So it's always fun with all the sounds on the map. But
Keep left.
so Childress, Texas. It's down that way. Heading to Oklahoma City. I already sang my Oklahoma song. I'm gonna not do it again. But yeah, we've got a full day here to continue moving across the country. And yes, at this point, it doesn't really need to be said, but I'll say it because I have hours and hours of air to fill anyway. I think we're safely past the crash point, so we should be able to get where we need to. So a little bit of a wind farm here. I know Texas has some of those. They've been in the news over the last few years sometimes that people were upset that they weren't generating as much power as they had been led to believe, and when Texas had some power issues, that was kind of the questions that were coming up. But yeah, the flickering of the signs is kind of interesting. Not sure why that happens. Is it the map? Is it my mod sequence? I just really don't know. Alright, I was going to say it's a pretty high-speed highway, but these seem like pretty tight turns, but they were okay. They weren't as bad as they seemed. Looks like we've got an overpass here and a road going under from somewhere. Oh, that was a truck getting off. I thought it was some kind of a sign or a billboard out in the distance, and then it kind of coalesced into clearly a truck exiting. It's just the ramp, I think, went further out from the interchange than I was expecting. Alright, so we're at our max. For some reason we're in 12th gear when we have a 13th. I don't quite know why the engine decided to do that. So it is louder, sun rising. Obviously we're heading east, so we're going to be driving into that blinding sun for a little while, but it's American Truck Simulator. Before you know it, it'll be up above our view screen, our window, and we'll just have daylight. Alright, so we're crossing through, I guess, what would technically be the Texas Panhandle, but as you can tell, even that, which is smaller, because yeah, Shamrock was at the edge here, Let's see if it's going to make us stop at the way station. It is not. So that is nice. All right, we've actually discovered Shamrock. That is nice. Coming up on a lot of traffic here, though. That's not so nice. Here we got a little bit of challenge because we've gone uphill, so we sloughed off almost 10 miles an hour, but we'll probably gain most of it back. That's an old car. And they're towing a small little backhoe unit. We could have had one of those in full size, but we're hauling cars to Halifax instead. And happy to be doing it, and actually doing it now that we've spent literally probably 2.5 hours of these 2 episodes solving the problem of not being able to get the cars out of Mexico. And it wasn't because we didn't have the right paperwork. So, it's a little crazy. So yes, this run will probably be close between the 2 videos. It might be really close to the original 6 hours or whatever that Sim Dashboard was telling me it was going to be, because of all the dancing we had to do along the Mexican border to get out of there. Alright, Elk City, I believe, is in Oklahoma. So that should unlock shortly, because it looks like it's just literally over the intersection, which is interesting, or the interchange. Or is it really not going to unlock unless we're on the road below? Huh. Maybe not. Alright. Well, it's come and gone, so we know where it is. And I didn't see any points, although I'm sure there are some around. But yeah, going along I-40, this is an interstate I personally have not spent much, if any, time on. I guess I might have done it when I lived in Tennessee. I think I-40 goes through Nashville and Memphis. I guess we'll find out, because we're going to be heading past that part of the country. So if it keeps us on I-40, I guess we'll figure out exactly where it's going. But right now, we're heading through Oklahoma, and then I assume we'll either be going through Kansas or Missouri. If I'm thinking about my geography correctly, I think that would be about right. So this may take us through Kansas City or something like that. I think we go relatively straight east until we hit the East Coast, and then start heading north-northeast to get up to Canada and to our final destination. So we are now below 2,300 miles. Alright, Clinton. Again, the way it's set up, it may be another one that we just kind of pass over but don't discover. Not quite sure how trigger points work. I assume you place them on the map when you design it, and when a truck goes through, and maybe it's like a geofence in real life with a mobile communication solution, that when you cross the geofence, it triggers. In a lot of cases, it would trigger like an auto arrive or an auto depart, is normally when companies would set those for their drivers on their devices. So it wouldn't really be for passing through cities. Again, some construction on the other side, just not sure if that's something that's permanently part of the coast-to-coast map or just a random occurrence that popped up there. Because while we have them turned down, we don't have those turned off, and we are covering large swaths of road. Fun thing is this is also all discoverable road, which was one of the reasons I wanted to take this route over others where we were traveling places we've been, and therefore not discovering anything new. or very little that was new. But at this point, I believe 100% of what we drive on between now and the end is going to be new. So we were over 10% already. We could find a good amount here in more than 2,300 miles of driving, or 2,200 miles of driving. Sorry, I read that wrong. But still, a lot of driving is ahead of us. So Friday in the USA, El Reno, not Reno, which is in Nevada, El Reno, which I assume is in Texas. No, it wouldn't be in Texas, because again, I think Shamrock was it. We've got over 11 hours till we need to rest, so as those rest areas popped up, caught my eye, made me take a peek, but we are good. It's an interesting, oh, that's a water tower. First I thought it was like either a fire tower or like, do they have a guard tower over the rest area? But they do not. It is just a water tower. So Tulsa and St. Louis. So yes, it looks like we're headed in the direction of Missouri, or Missouri. So being a huge baseball fan and growing up in Chicago, so this again was the example of on the map where we get wrong directions. So if it told me to exit right, I would go this way, and it's not where I want to go. So we'll ignore her specific directions. It looks like we go right in a little bit, but it's not here. So I'm not quite sure why that happens, and it typically is in these clover leaves. So it may have something to do with the way they're placed. Obviously, it discovers the entire interchange, not simply the parts I'm driving on, like it would if we were on SCS maps. Just like when we hit this, it'll discover that entire network. So I don't have to drive every on and off exit to expose that, which this also then helps, obviously, increase the percentage of discovered roads faster because we have large swaths of things. I was playing around with seeing if I could get 100% discovered, so I did run a profile with just the original game that existed, which I think was California and Nevada, if I remember. And this one I think is where we do need to exit. We do. Alright, so we're actually going to go to 44. So yes, 40 does go through Memphis, but we're not going that way, which makes sense because we do need to head north. So if we have an opportunity to do that, which with this interstate it looks like we do. 44 is not one I've even heard of. For the longest time, certainly when I was younger, most of the interstates were just the zeros and the fives. There were plenty of them, but as the country's grown and there's more people and more time to build infrastructure, we've gotten some more interstates popping up here and there. 39 is one that shrunk some significant distance on our trips from the Chicago area down to Disney World in some cases. So, and I'm sure 44 exists for a similar type purpose, but definitely not one I'm familiar with. And now we are in that Midwest look of the coast-to-coast map, where we have kind of slightly rising terrain to both sides of the road with trees. And then I'm sure if we saw this from the air, the map would just vanish. And if it were more hilly, we'd be likely seeing the road going up into the empty sky, but not seeing that here. The nice thing is we're able to continue to go 75, or in this case 80. I was hoping he was going to exit, but he's not. So at this point, they're both going about the same speed. But yeah, I could be going 7 miles an hour faster if I could get some open road. So the red car is moving a little quicker, so we'll head over here. Draft behind him. Obviously, I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek because with our size, any type of draft or air resistance that he might be braking for us is pretty much useless. But he does have Texas, something on the back of his car that says Texas, so that's probably how Coast to Coast did any kind of license plates on vehicles. It was just a very simple white placard with some basic things on it. Alright, we can move back over to the right. But yeah, sadly, we're kind of in that quiet part of the map, so maybe we won't have quite as much to see that's interesting. Maybe all the way to the end. It might just be a relatively basic and straightforward run at this point, with not a lot to comment on, so that makes it a little more challenging to... Oh boy. That's not good. I started to tip over. Wow. Oh, I saved that. That was a much sharper curve than should have been with the speed. Alright, so we're passing Tulsa, Oklahoma here. Yeah, that took a little bit of driving to avoid that trailer flipping over. That was not something that I needed. Alright, so this is where, once again, I don't think the designers of the map really necessarily fleshed out, am I safely able to make the turns? Now, it's not that the SES maps guarantee it either. But yeah, if I'm not exiting or entering, having a curve that I really can't have a hope of making seems a little bit unfair. But we've got what we've got, so Tulsa, Oklahoma is here. I'm not sure. Embarrassingly, I say I don't know if Tulsa's right in the center of Oklahoma, if it's closer. Alright, again, another nice bonus. Certainly was not expecting to discover Tulsa, but we have, so that will give us access for origination at some point once we start running as a owner-operator. We probably will take shorter runs just for variety, if nothing else, and for shorter episodes, because then I can do them more frequently, I can do them more often, which would equal more frequently. So now I'm just speaking. Alright, I don't know that I can... there's cars definitely next to me now. So it looks like we've got a bulldozer on a low boy in front of us. The one thing I've not really done is buy trailers and basically kind of run the fleet where I have my own equipment. I usually just buy the tractors and then use the others, but we'll see. We'll see how things go. Getting way ahead of myself, especially not knowing what kind of work and what success we're going to have with the map. Flipping around to try to improve the situation here. Because I'm thinking I still have at least one or two more of these type of episodes before I'm at the point that I can buy a truck or a tractor. Once again, I don't know if we're going uphill, but we obviously were going much faster before, but it's like refusing to switch gears here. Just figured I'll stop the cruise and restart it and see if that changes it, but I think we're in essence on some kind of a slight incline, and that's making the truck feel it can't switch. So got over 8 hours till we need to rest. 667 miles of fuel. So no need to partake of anything at these rest areas. The nice thing is they don't have the typical weigh stations. Like there's a scale there if I wanted to just weigh myself for some reason, but it's not making me pull over here and stop, which means obviously we are chewing up miles as quickly as is possible in the game at this point. But it looks like this is going to take us through St. Louis, and then St. Louis, I know, borders Illinois, so we'll go through part of that. I assume we'll go through Indiana, so yeah, we're not actually going to be heading down through Tennessee in any way. But just wish I hadn't had to have slowed down, because now we clearly can't get ourselves back up to speed. I see a border map, I assume, there, or a border sign. So let's see, are we entering Missouri? I'm assuming that's what we're going to see. We, in fact, are. They're so nice, they welcome us. St. Louis is on the opposite side of Missouri, so assuming it doesn't take us off this route,
Go straight on.
when we see that, we'll be at the border of Missouri and Illinois. And these states are not that wide, so 200-300 miles. So at the normal pace, that should be maybe 10-15 minutes to get across the state. Who knows, maybe even less, but we'll see how it all comes together. I was hoping we had maybe crested a hill and we'd pick up some substantial speed, but no such luck. I almost feel like I should get over in the right lane, but I'm holding out hope that at some point I'm just going to start overtaking again. Yeah, but definitely just from even the personal feeling of driving this map, like I'm physically getting much more tired right now, and I think it's simply because there's so little that I need to think about on the map at this point. Like there's no visual differences. I'm just driving a ribbon of asphalt through the same repetitive set of trees, and I've been doing it for, at this point, going on 400 to 500 miles. So, alright, so now we've switched to 12. We'll see if that helps us. Actually 13. And we are slowly creeping up, so maybe this will get us where we need. I'm fairly certain there isn't a pointy peak in the middle of Missouri somewhere. So this is a little unexpected. I mean, the southern part of Missouri, the borders on Arkansas, there's a area called Table Rock Lake that is a little bit hilly, and it's the Ozarks, but I don't think we're that far south, and that's what they're trying to show us, but maybe that's the idea of why it's there, because otherwise Missouri's really kind of part of the entrance to the Great Plains. Like Lewis and Clark started out from St. Louis, going to explore the western part of the United States in the early 1800s. Like, this is not a mountainous region. So, that was weird. But no, what I was saying is I think it's just the fact that this map is, at this point, so basic. It isn't super exciting. So Springfield's the capital of Illinois in the center. So if we head up there, because yeah, it's telling us Springfield here, but this is not, it's not Springfield, Illinois, because yeah, there is a Springfield, Missouri, but as you can see, we haven't gone very far. And so yes, unfortunately, actually, yeah, we're not staying down in this space where there's a bit more going on. So yeah, I think we're in for this scenery at least until somewhere here. And even then, I'm sure we're continuing. So we're just going to go through that little finger of West Virginia on the route that it has us on. But again, the nice thing is, and one of the reasons I wanted to take this route is my hope was that I would start unlocking a lot of these cities here. Again, I gotta be careful that this doesn't take me around to the point where I crash. But these look at least like more reasonable curves. So, I apologize for the lack of visual excitement. I guess that's translating into the lack of audio excitement because I've got nothing to talk about. So I'm trying to think about something interesting that we can have that I can speak about. Because we're not really going to have a conversation because, again, you're not on, it's not like you're on the phone with me or I'm talking to you on the CB radio. And even if you comment, like, I will respond, but it could be hours or days later when I see it. That rest area sign is backward. I really shouldn't be able to see it from this side, but I could. So if someone at the Coast to Coast map happens to be watching this, maybe they'll learn about a few of those issues that they can tidy up. But you know, again, it's kind of the necessary evil we have at this point of trying to just move along quickly, level up as fast as we can by running the longest runs we can to take advantage of this vast expanse of continent. These are the maps we have right now in ATS, so so we do what we need to do to accomplish what we're seeking to accomplish. But this is honestly where I struggle a bit with, do I really want to push this to 30, level 30, before I become an owner-operator? Because at least my feeling is if I am an owner-operator, I could like cover these things in shorter sections. Like I could literally take a load from, say, St. Louis to Tulsa, and it would take me, you know, maybe a half-hour episode, and then we'd be moving closer to a more visually varied map. Where instead, I think all we've got here is placed ribbons of road that go through, you know, that lay down the major interstates across the country with the same terrain around them constantly. So, just trying to slow down because the hill is giving us some extra speed. Red billboard, Carl's Jr. Never eaten one of those. I've seen the commercials. They have these crazy commercials, which again, I guess are supposed to attract the male audience that would eat the giant sandwiches that Carl sells. Ooh, there's a jet plane flying over, so there must be some sort of, there goes, that goes the other way. I'm guessing there's some Air Force base or something near. Oh, that thing looked like it just dove toward the ground. I'm assuming that must be where the airport is. So they're taking off and landing. They're just doing it at a precariously fast pace. So it looks like someone was suddenly just barreling into the ground and crashing the plane. But obviously then the plane came up, just flew over us. We saw the shadow cross the road. Why did the shadow cross the road? Certainly to get to the other side in this case. And somehow, again, we had a massive hill climb because we've slowed down to 60. I think we're hearing the jet flying overhead too, a little bit, but it should be a ways behind us now. So we're coming up on 1,800 miles. Got a little over 5 hours till we need to rest today. So we'll see how far we get. I'm thinking we'll get past St. Louis and into Illinois. I just don't know that we'll get through Illinois before we stop again. A lot of hay bales being transported would make sense. In this area of the country, there should be lots of farms around. It should be great for Farming Simulator. Be pretty flat, probably pretty rectangular, so not terribly exciting maps to enjoy, but so speaking of Farming Simulator, at some point we have been told that American Truck Simulator and European Truck Simulator are somehow going to be connected. I don't think gameplay-wise, but world-wise, where we will be able to use ATS to haul crops and things we harvest or products we create in Farming Simulator and kind of tie everything together and get credit. So, it's not a direct gameplay tie, but the intent is to kind of create a bit of a world crossing. And I think they're intending to do something with Microsoft Flight Simulator as well. But I don't know how far out those plans are and what exactly they will entail and provide to us. There's just not really been anything else said other than that. So, as a fan of both sets of franchises, not really Microsoft Flight Simulator, I've never gotten into that. Not to say that I wouldn't try it again, but it was just far, far too difficult for me the one time I did try it many, many years ago. And it's not as if I have this desire to do that, and I might find it way more entertaining than I think. I certainly, when I decided to try a demo of Farming Simulator, never expected it to become one of my favorite games. I'm assuming that's incorrect, and it is. We're just continuing straight through, but we are crossing over someplace that we've gone through, and we are also, more importantly, crossing over the border into another state. So we'll head over here. Yeah, just was somewhat second guessing myself because there are a few. Hopefully that wasn't too loud for you. It was incredibly loud for me. Hit my headphones with my hand as I was going to scratch my head. So we're entering Illinois.
Get ready to exit right.
I think this was an area. Now let's make sure. Let me zoom in here. No, I am not exiting right. Okay. I think this was an area where I lost some footage before, sharing my detail of being born and raised in the Chicago area of Illinois. It is not Illinois. So, like people will say Des Moines without the S's, but somehow Illinois, if people aren't from there, is what they say, and nothing is more irritating to an Illinoisan than that, because it's just not how you say it. It's, I think, an Indian word. And, you know, you could almost say it's kind of got like a French ending, like, well, like Francois or stuff like that. But just, yes, please pronounce the state correctly if you're going through it, or talking about it, or doing anything related to it, because it's just the right thing to do. People just like they like their names to be pronounced correctly. Most folks would enjoy having their state and their home and all of that pronounced correctly. And, you know, there's a little more forgiveness in, say, city or town names that might be a little unique. Again, I don't know that we talked about, but this is the same conversation I had when I had this before, so I'll continue down that same thing. Like, in the American Revolution, there was a French warrior. He wasn't a general, I think, because he was Marquis de Lafayette, and he was on Washington's staff and helped in the American Revolution, and obviously was a key in helping us achieve victory. And so, in homage to that, there are cities in the United States named after him. And so there is Lafayette, Indiana, and other things like that. But then there is a city in Tennessee with the same name, but they pronounce it Lafayette. And unless you're in the area or from that area or know people from the area, you wouldn't know that. You'd look at the map and say, oh, it's Lafayette, Tennessee, and it's not. So, so you could make the argument that you'd look at a map and say Illinois because that's how it's spelled, but now you know better. How about that? But once again, there's only 50 states where there's thousands of cities. So, not knowing that Lafayette is the way it's pronounced in Tennessee could be a lot more forgivable in my mind than, calling it Tennessee or Tennessee, or I don't even know, like emphasizing something incorrectly. Tennessee. Because you just thought that's what you said, but you didn't take the time to learn. No, it's Tennessee. And there are a lot of states in the U.S. that have that issue. In fact, it may be one of the only ones, because the Dakotas are the Dakotas are Dakotas, Indiana, Oklahoma, Texas, Alaska, Wyoming. Everything is kind of like what it looks like, except for Illinois. You've got the Carolinas, you've got Florida, Georgia. So honestly, Illinois may be the only state that has that situation going on. All right, so we're 2.5 hours till I need to rest. 274 miles till we're out of gas. So probably the next things that start to appear, I should probably take advantage of, because again, on the coast-to-coast map, things aren't as prevalent as they are on the other maps. So another bulldozer on a lowboy, just like we were behind a little while ago. Looks like maybe. Guess I'll move over in case that is the case, because pushing this further wouldn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, it's on the other side of the road, it looks like. So that doesn't help me. So we'll continue to go. We're not going to exit, turn around, come back, because then, we'd have to do other things. We're going to cross our fingers and hope we don't die. Or at least not be able to sleep in time, because I don't want any penalties. Dangerously close to falling below $700,000. I don't like that. I like to stay above my big numbers. So, alright, yeah. I was just checking my speed limit because I saw there was a police officer tucked in here, and I didn't want to suddenly be going 75 and a 65, but everything is in order. Now, if it's just my luck, it'll change, and then he'll immediately slap me with a ticket. It'll just be like those speed traps in the US, so there's some realism there. But again, I think we're still in Illinois. We're heading towards Indianapolis, but I do not believe we're in Indiana yet. Could be wrong. Don't know that it really matters. Now it's even more dull. We don't have trees. We just have grass. So I just wish there was something that could be done to make this more interesting. And I guess there is. But it's going to take years and years and years. And that is SCS developing out all these states themselves. And they do so in significantly more detail than the folks did with this map. Alright, now we're crossing the Indiana border. So I am surprised. I really didn't think we would do that before we rested again. But happy to see that we're making that progress. Telling me an hour and a half, which is probably right. I don't know if the time's moved any faster. Alright, so we do have a rest area. And a gas station, even better. So it's not just a rest area. We're absolutely going to take advantage of it because we have an hour and a half before we have to rest. It is already 8 p.m. By the time I fill up gas, because I think the time tends to run at the same pace here, even when we're sitting. So, maybe not. I guess it hasn't changed to 8:03 yet. But we'll pull over. There goes the policeman. And I'll probably go a little bit further. Again, I'm struggling to kind of, frankly, stay awake. So logically, it would make some sense to stop, but I'd love to get this done and see where things are at. Come on, give me a rest point here. Goodness gracious. That's not good. Alright, we're going to just kind of head along the edge here and hope it's going to trigger something. Doesn't look like it, so I guess we'll go this way. I get there's a lot of things to put in place to make these things work, but so I'm going to go a little further here and then cycle around this way and hope these spaces function better. Come on. If not, I may... Goodness. What is happening and why? It should not be this difficult when I've got spaces and spaces to be able to find a point where I can rest. They need more and larger trigger points. So again, coast to coast people, if you're watching it, I almost hit enter again, like I did the one time when I mistakenly rested. Thank goodness I did not, because I don't need to, and I frankly don't know that I have time to, because yes, we are now less than 50 hours, well, 60 hours different between our total drive time and our available time. So 5 more rests, and if I consumed one of them, that would not be good. Alright, so now we can only go 70. So we're going a little slower. So yeah, we'll go through Indiana. That'll then take us into Ohio, and then again I think we'll hit the sliver of West Virginia, and I don't know if then we'll go into Pennsylvania or Virginia. I think it's Pennsylvania at that point that's tucked in against. But I thought we were headed into Virginia at some point, which is a little south of Pennsylvania. So I'm not sure, but we're just driving right now. So I think at best, I'll probably get another day in. I may not even make it that far, because that's still going to be another 30 or 45 minutes. And like I said, I'm fading. I need to do something else for a while, get my second wind, come back to this. And by now, if we did not have the problems in Mexico, I think this episode would be over. So, this route across the 2 episodes, and it would have been 1 episode, but might have been a long episode, but this is going to be longer. Because I know even that one move, I think, where we went from Nogales over to Sierra Vista, I think that took us 45 minutes to an hour on its own. So, and then obviously we had the other piece at the start of this episode that took however long it took, but it was probably also 45 minutes to an hour. Because if I recall, when I stopped the recording, I was at an hour and a half already, and this is a second set here, so that we're probably approaching an hour into, if not already surpassing it. Alright, so this is the road that I think goes up to Chicago, so we're getting to the edge of...
Go straight on.
We're not up to Chicago, we're past that. So, in any event, we are now at 1,500 miles to go. So for a nearly 4,000 mile trip, a good amount past halfway. So yeah, we're headed toward Columbus, Ohio. Let me make sure we're not exiting here. We are not. We're actually going through Columbus. And yes, so this is what would get us into the Chicago area, that in I-65. One that I know relatively well. I know it doesn't look anything like it does on the map here, but they can only model what they can model. Oh, don't make me slow down. Move over to the right lane. Because, yeah, I don't know that I'm going to be past this truck. Thank you. Now stay over there. Don't suddenly hop back over, because the truck or the bus slows down to get into the rest area, and then the car senses that they're going to have to brake, and so instead it dives over. I've seen it do stuff like that, but hoping that won't be the case here. So, from a discovery standpoint, again, obviously we get the whole rest space, whatever, that doesn't normally happen. Please slow down, don't cut in front of me, because I am catching up. So we're back where we were, just like yesterday morning, heading into the sunrise. Absolutely we'll get through Columbus and into states after that, because these things, Indianapolis and Columbus, are not that far apart in real life, and they're certainly not going to be that far apart on the map here then. At a distance, these somewhat look like palm trees. Obviously they shouldn't be, and they're not. They're just tall pine trees. Oops, don't mean to be drifting off. And I'm not drifting off into sleep. That wasn't what was happening. I was trying to get to my mute button because I could feel a cough coming on. Been a lot of chatting with you, as you well know. So, heading along. Our little excitement of trees is now gone. We're now back into the not even rolling grasslands of Indiana and Ohio. So, yeah, I will say, I guess what I can talk about for a bit is kind of my personal experience. It's been fun for a while to do this, to be able to drive cross country, which you can't do in ATS as it's officially built out yet. So this gives us the opportunity to do that, but this is not something that I would continue to do regularly. It's just too boring of a drive, frankly. At this point, I know we're going to be coming up on 1,000 miles where it's basically been like this, and that's just not fun. Part of what I've enjoyed about this game is just you've got to think about things, you've got to figure out what you're doing, and this is just robotic driving with nothing to decide about, nothing to see, nothing to interact with for far, far too long. And it's not a dig at the map creators or anything. I get this is a gigantic stretch and a gigantic square mile area that they're covering and giving us the opportunity to drive across. So I can only imagine the time it would take, given that SCS takes many months, probably realistically 6, 9 to 12 months for every single state to be released. And it's not as if they're providing every single road in the state. They're giving a decent road network, but just want to make sure. Yep. All right, so this is I-75. Again, I have gone north-south on that before. Now, living in the Ohio area, it's certainly something I've been on. I just don't know that I've been on it at this point. Probably further south. But yeah, it's just not fun gameplay. And I'm hoping it's not treacherously dull YouTube video either, but I'm doing what I can through having these conversations or sharing this monologue with you to give you something to listen to while you just kind of go along with me. But obviously, you're not having to steer the truck and whatever, so you can have this on, be doing something, to keep you yourself physically occupied. A lot of folks, I'm sure, might throw this up and run it and let it run while they're playing an app on their tablet or something, or maybe they've got this as a shrunken window somewhere in the corner of their screen while they are playing some other game that is maybe equally mindless. It's just kind of a button pressing thing, and maybe something like one of those brick crusher games where you just gotta aim the ball and then you let the ball bounce around and break bricks. This would be a great thing to keep yourself entertained with while you're doing that. At least have something to listen to. Something happens once in a while. Obviously I'll get to places, I'll have to do things, I'll have to park, and you can come along on this journey with me and enjoy it that way. But so for kind of both of those reasons, my physical boredom and the fact that I know this does not make compelling YouTube video of American Truck Simulator, this is not something I'm looking to do long term, of just these massive cross-country drives. There is a purpose and a method to the madness at this point, which is just get myself to the point where I'm an owner-operator. And then that's not to say I wouldn't drive around here, but realistically, the series may end Kind of once I get to the point, and then do a few owner-operator runs, because at that point, what I'm probably realistically going to start doing is hanging out in areas of the map that have more stuff. The only reason it might continue in this space is there are areas of the coast-to-coast map, and certainly there's a good amount of detail in Mexico. It just, I think I will stay out of this area of the country, except in exceptional circumstances. You know, I may run over here to unlock certain things. I may, you know, every once in a while do a run across a span of interstate, or, you know, just take a specific interstate I haven't done to try to unlock as many of the cities as I possibly can there to get some things going. But even as I say that, I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to be compelled to do that, because the only reason you're doing that is so that you can originate from those cities. And if I originate from those cities, that means I need to drive over this dreadfully dull expanse again to take the load somewhere. Because frankly, even the short loads, like I had tossed out, you know, what now seems like hours ago, but it wasn't. I'm exaggerating. I know it wasn't hours ago, but I'm just kind of trying to voice my sheer frustration with the dullness of this, is even running from Tulsa to whatever it was, Tulsa to St. Louis. You know, great, we pick the thing up, we end. You know, it'd be better just to show you the pickup and the load and just cut everything out in between, because you're not missing anything in between. And if I don't have anything to tell you at that point, or anything to chat about, and I mean, I suppose we can just start talking about current events, and I can just record what's going on in the world at the time I film these. But once again, how relevant will it then be for someone to look at a year from now, and, you know, who's found the series and decided, yeah, I'll follow along with this. I mean, I suppose on the one hand it's a little bit of a time capsule of, oh, that's when this was filmed, versus not knowing what's happening and what the time context is of things. But you know, I make comments here and there, and the challenge with anything these days, if I start talking about current events, unfortunately it ultimately leads to some sort of political discussion, and, you know, the way everybody's divided and so forth, you know, I lose half my audience or something, depending on who decides, you know, oh, I'm not listening to this guy anymore, he believes that, or he stands for that, which really shouldn't have anything to do with what American Truck Simulator person you watch on YouTube, but unfortunately it probably does in the environment and the tone of the country we live in today. So, yeah, it is what it is. Like I said, even that little discussion of explaining why I'm not going to discuss it is already starting to turn political, and I've certainly probably already tipped my hand as to which side of the spectrum I land on in my feelings. It's not necessarily my political ideology, but, you know, we're definitely at one of those states in the U.S. now where I'm thinking we may have a flip in what people do with the various political parties, where, you know, Republicans stood for conservative and Democrats were highly progressive, and I'm starting to see, you know, the Democrats become less far left, and the Republicans continue to have their car and not take it to an alignment shop, and continue to let it pull to the right more and more and more, to the point where, again, I guess I'm evolving into this statement. So we'll talk about what at least I'm doing in my real life. My wife and I are at this point, you know, we're watching through the series The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu, and I'd heard about it years ago. There's currently 4 seasons out. We're still in the 2nd season. We're kind of, for us, binge watching, which basically means watching 2 episodes an evening when we do sit down and watch it, but sometimes we don't watch things that, you know, every day. So we're kind of working our way through it slowly, enjoying it. It's interesting. It's an interesting thought experiment. Just how does a society get that way? But it's pretty damn scary when you could see a party, one of the main political parties in a country, doing something completely insane like that, and doing it for the sake of, oh yeah, because we want to live conservative values and so forth. And again, I lean conservative. I guess I'll just put it out there at this point. I mean, I have been and voted Republican most of my life, and I cannot stomach it anymore. The party is so lost. And all the excuses people give for, oh, but the Supreme Court justices, oh, but the pro-life policies, oh, but the, I simply say to folks, really look at what's being done. They're just pro-power. They're not pro-anything else. And that just turns me off at this point, and I'm frankly disgusted by it. But anyway, so if I get hate messages below, I get hate messages below, but it is what it is. But that's this kind of game, this kind of sim, it gets you to that point. You've got hours and hours where you're not doing much, and if you're talking with folks, you start talking about all kinds of stuff because it's just the nature of the world. And that's definitely something that's been kind of front and center. And also, now you can understand why I tend not to talk about current events, because I'm just very, very disappointed with where we're headed as a country. And again, while I lean heavily conservative, I'm all about family values. I'm Christian and so forth. There's a point where, as people and human beings, we need to understand when too far is too far. And we're clear, the Republican Party clearly is not doing that. And folks who just will buy the, but as a Christian, you need to do this. No, you don't. You need to think for yourself. And not simply vote for where people tell you should vote because of boxes you check for demographics. So again, that's why I stay away from the topics, because it just will become rants about why I think things should be different, and why we as society can be better. It's okay to help people, and not just help people who are similar to us, but help all people. That's what, frankly, Christianity's about. It's not about going into your little tribe, and that's what I'm seeing is happening with the Republican Party, and why I don't know that I'll ever vote for anyone in that party again. Because if they continue to go down that path, it's just, it's too hateful. Alright, enough of that. We've got trees. We have more other things. I'm hopeful we're getting somewhere more visually interesting. We're below 1,200 miles, so we're getting there. If nothing else, that little rant and discussion got me to get further down the road and kept me from falling asleep. So you can count it for that, if nothing else. That's weird. It almost looks like a border crossing, but maybe it's just like an agricultural station? Or is it just, oh, that might be the toll symbol. It is Pennsylvania. There are a lot of turnpikes. I don't know what it is, because we're literally passing it. It's in the middle, but it's not having us do anything. That's weird. Now, Pennsylvania does have, a little bit of mountainous area, but this looks like it's more just trees and hills. But I do like the fact that at least whoever did this part of the coast-to-coast map gave us something more than basic terrain and a couple trees. Now, again, all they've done right here is sharper, steeper terrain with the same trees, but there's at least other things unrolling ahead of us here. We're up to 70 again, so I can speed up a little bit. was starting to try to figure out why I was just kind of pacing this truck with the pipes. I'm like, I've been looking at those pipes for probably 100 miles now. But now I understand, because I can go faster and he's going at that pace. Ooh, is this a tunnel? I like tunnels. I've always liked tunnels, even since I was a little kid. I don't know why. I mean, I guess who doesn't like tunnels, right? I guess people who don't like tunnels, but I've just always enjoyed them. The longer the better. I know there's, this fear of people like, getting stuck in a tunnel, it'll collapse, you're buried alive and so forth, but I guess I just have more faith in engineering, and that, there aren't people not paying attention to stuff, and if suddenly the integrity of the tunnel starts to be compromised, they're going to do something about it. Again, with the lack of infrastructure spending, there is some danger. We obviously, we're in this area of the country now. We just went by Pittsburgh. There was a bridge collapse in Pittsburgh a month ago or something. Stuff like that happens when you don't maintain stuff. If I don't do stuff around my house is going to fall over eventually. Maybe that's a bit extreme, because the house will stand for a long time without any maintenance. But, things will break inside, and things won't work appropriately. So, thinking that we can't spend on things, or don't spend on things that we need to. But once again, clearly, either my brain's in that mode because I talked about it for a bit, but suddenly it's become political just because I was talking about how I love tunnels. But I love tunnels more than I love bridges. I like beautiful bridges. I am excited about, I think ATS is doing some rework of the California bridges and stuff. I think that'll be pretty sweet. Obviously I think they already have the Golden Gate Bridge, and there I believe I've gone over it and so forth. Ooh, that's a pretty sharp change there. Saw that truck ahead of me, the box truck, just violently drop down, but it's alright. It didn't cause any damage to our vehicle, so it was a bit sharp other than that. But so the good news is, maybe me getting myself all worked up, now I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, I've got 1,000 miles to go, maybe I'll just finish. And maybe that's what'll happen, because I still do have that fear of suddenly not being able to finish because the versions change. I've got those clouds that are just scrolling over the sky super fast again. It's just always a very funny scene when I see it. Oh, there's a little porta potty here. Alright. So it's like we're going through a city park, even though in theory we're still on the interstate. I don't understand, but that's where we're at. But yeah, it's still telling me I physically have an hour. So let's see, it says it's 11:12. Technically I'd have about that long to play before I normally stop, before my window closes today, for a little while. But, and I could always go later if I wanted to, needed to, but I've been doing a lot of American Truck Simulator between testing and trying to get this thing going again and whatever. So, ain't gonna lie, I'm a little burned out, at least with just doing this one route. Like I said, if I started another one, I'd probably be refreshed and like, cool, new adventure, let's go. But the reality is it's going to be another one of these, I think. I can't imagine there not being another one. I'm not going to go from level 20 to level 25 with this run, even if I get credit for all those extra miles. There's just too big of a gap now between... Alright, so we're headed basically toward New York City. Oh, I didn't even realize we switched from like 70 to 76 to 78. Interesting. But we're basically continuing straight on. Got a little over 6 hours here. before we're supposed to rest. So that'll get us to about 8 p.m. if I push it all the way. Don't think that would get us to New York. That seems too far when we're still in Pennsylvania, but we are in Pennsylvania and we are well past Pittsburgh, because I think it's only like 12 hours from like Pittsburgh, and we're exiting to Philadelphia here, so we might get to New York in 6 hours. I guess we'll see. But anyway, as I said, getting all worked up might get me to the point where it's like, let's just finish it. Because especially if I get to 300 or 400 before I stop, it's kind of like at that point I know it's just 20-30 minutes and then I'm done. 5-6 hours, we'll pass this rest area up. We got over almost 500 miles of gas. We're good. The nice thing is we are now under 1,000, so next time I fill up I will have enough gas to make it to the delivery. So that's the most important thing. And there's a possibility that we finish up on Sunday like 2 days ahead of schedule, which would be crazy, but we'll see. Because this time the daylights worked out nicely, that I've not had to do any double sleeps, so it's been pretty cool. Just sadly really nothing to look at for a long time for you and me. So now we're back out of what I was hoping was changing into, no, it isn't. So, yeah. I wish I could talk about other things, that excitedly and passionately, and I probably can, but they'd be like technical work things or something that you probably have as much interest in as you do in talking about politics for 3 hours. So, I'm thinking, and sometimes that's where it's also helpful with the scenery, because I'll be talking about some scenery and then suddenly it'll like trigger a story. Like, oh yeah, that reminds me of the time when the sky was green instead of blue. But I don't have any of those stories, because right now that's all I see is blue sky and green grass. Green Grass and High Tides is a cool song. I do rock band for fun. That's the thing I would be switching to. We're at that time of the week when we're doing the challenges where I try to help my crew out with playing as much as I need to play to try to get us to the next level. We're not in a season this week. We just have a bonus challenge. It's Women's Month, so they're doing Women of Rock type of things. So I've got a few hundred songs that meet that criteria according to the rock band folks. So I did some of that earlier this week, but today's the day to kind of solidify our position if I can. We tried really hard the last couple weeks of the season to get to Bloodstone level, which is the highest level you can get, but we ended up in Diamond, which is where we've been at least every season for the 28 seasons that have existed in Rock Band, and that our crew has been part of it. So we are long timers. This is West Virginia. Again, we've got a little bit of a sliver. That's not the West Virginia sign I've ever seen. New Jersey. Goodness. We must have blown through West Virginia at some, I don't even know where I'm at. But we're in Jersey. Probably totally doing the accent wrong. That's why I'm not an actor. And I don't even get paid to be one on YouTube. I just do it for your own joy and excitement and pain and agony and thankfulness that you're not me. And have to pretend you have accents when you don't. But Jersey Boys is a cool musical if you've never seen it. One of my favorites, about Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, and a lot of really cool music if you like that era. definitely one if you get a chance to see. Go see it. We saw it years and years ago. Kind of hoping it comes back again. Maybe take some of the older kids now, might appreciate it a little more. Be a fun outing. We haven't had a lot of outings with COVID. We're starting to do things, but I think I talked about at one point, like, I don't know that I'll ever go back to a movie theater the way I used to. I think that's just been beat out of me at this point. We've had so many years of not being able to go that I've just kind of learned to watch movies other ways and found them fine. They are fine. They're not fun. They're not as epic. They're not as cool. But I'm older. I don't have, I used to have a friend, an adult friend that I'd go with regularly. I think I need to go around I'm not even close to going around the loop. I literally need to go straight on. I need to get to the Cloverleaf, so. Silly me. Thought this was it, and I thought like I would, but I'm like, I can't do the loop because the loop is getting on, and it was confusing me, but at this point, there it is.
Go straight on.
So we have made it to the New York area, like we were speculating. So look at that. Look how time flies when you're grumbling about stuff. Alright, so I can exit here. There's an interesting pattern on the road. Woo. I forget how sharp these are. And then again, I don't know why they have the guardrails on the inside. Because clearly my momentum is not going to carry me that way. So it's just very weird. I had to let him on, but... Alright. So we are now 4 hours, so we're in that danger zone on this map where everything is way too far apart for its own good. Although I will say there have been a good amount of rest areas in the last stretch, so this has been pretty good. But the Canada map, oi. Because I think that in this series, that's the only place I've actually run out of gas, certainly run out of gas, and maybe even missed my sleep, was there. Because I've been pretty careful not to really push things too far, because there's just not really a reason to do that. But anyway, going back to the movie theater thing, it's not like we have a giant TV. I don't even remember. It's 55 inches. But it's good. We enjoy it. I get to get up, get my snacks. I frankly hate paying. Well, I don't like popcorn. I just find the work of popcorn, getting stuck in your teeth, picking things out, just not worth the flavor. I'd rather eat something else as a snack. Found these really awesome Snyder's pretzels in the last few weeks that I just love. They're like, I think they're seasoned is what the package is called, but it's like a buttery blend of spicy seasonings, and it's not really spicy like hot, but it does have like a little bit of a tingle on your tongue, and it is super buttery. It's really yummy. So I'm hoping those stick around in our Sam's Club. That's where I found them. That's where I get a lot of stuff like that, because it's the best prices. But and that ultimately is kind of what the movie challenge is $8 for a tub of popcorn, when I can do a microwave popcorn, or even just do regular kernels in the microwave and heat them up in a unit that pops them appropriately for a dime. I get they need to make some money to keep the building open, but unfortunately for them, in the pandemic, it's just not that important for me to keep the building open. Same thing with the beverages. I know they give you a bathtub of soda if you order it, but they're not giving it to you for a price that is even comparable to fast food, which is already overcharging you insanely anyway, because that's the way they make their profits, is on their beverages. But And I understand, movies don't make profit on tickets. They make money on concessions. I'm a bad theater goer that way. I don't spend a lot of concession money. I make sure I've eaten before I go to the movies, and if I have any kind of snack, I'll bring in a little box of candy on my own or something. But just highway robbery, frankly. So there's just not a lot compelling me, as you can tell. And if you would have asked me 5 years ago if I would ever feel like this, I'd be like, you're crazy. I love going to the theater, and I did. I loved it. And now I don't. It's just a change that has happened because of the pandemic. I've learned to enjoy other things and spend, not necessarily spend that time doing other things, because again, I enjoy movies. We don't watch as many of them as we used to. We tend to watch, TV shows like The Handmaid's Tale and stuff. And a lot of other things. Currently watching Yellowstone. We haven't finished Game of Thrones. Did watch, I happened to have Amazon for some other reason. Or actually, no, I think that was the reason I got it at that point. Just paid for like a little over a month of Amazon Prime to be able to see The Wheel of Time, because I love that book series. And it was really, really good. They did a good job with it. I'm looking forward to more seasons in the future. We're going to pull off here. So we've got 2.5 hours, so this is a little early. I don't know. Well, I'm going to pull off, and then I might change my mind. Let me go to the map. Let's see. This is just so convenient. We're here, I'd have to do, we're going to do that. I'm probably going to have to rest one more time because of that, where otherwise I wouldn't, because it's telling me 14 hours and 6 minutes now. Although again, if I really stay on time, you don't get a penalty instantaneously. And once again, honestly, by the time I fill my tank and get my truck to the probably likely massively small trigger point, just like I had last time I tried this, it's probably going to be right at 14 hours anyway. Although I don't know, I'm not moving, and now that I'm in the rest area, it seems to have slowed down, because now it's at 14 hours and 5 minutes. So it had gone down a minute, and that's why I thought. But as far as gas, we have 757 miles to go, but 1,050 miles of gas. So, we're definitely good there. Now, I guess I'll try here to pull in really close to this guy and see if it lets me. Alright, there we go. That's what I was hoping for. Alright. So the bad news is it's, 3:42 a.m., so we're going to have some darkness for quite a while, for many hours before we don't. But that's why I wanted to pull into that spot, because I knew I could just do a UE there and get out of here. So I'm all set with my gas. Just technically 5 minutes over. Well, actually more than that, because the time hasn't changed, but my sleep timer has. It's telling me 13 hours and 58 minutes. I'm still not at 14. And, some of that I think is because I'm not up to speed, frankly. Because now I'm down to 14 hours, 2 minutes, 13 hours and 53 minutes of rest. So it's still a little less than 10 minutes difference, and I could go over that much. So maybe we'll do it in one thing. And at this point, I'm probably close enough that I'll honestly plow through and finish this thing. So, however you feel about that, you can feel, I guess. Rejoice if you're going to rejoice. Cry if you're going to cry. If you wanted me to take a break and come back later, I don't know why you'd want that, because the video's not going to, take a break. It'll just be cut right back in, but hey, if somehow, it was making you feel that I should do that for some reason. Whoops, I can only go 65 here in the grand state of New York. I think I'm still in New York. So I need to slow down a bit. But now it looks like we take 95 up for a ways. I've done 95 way down in Florida, a little bit in Georgia, I think. I think out of Savannah is 95 goes down. So I've gone down that way sometimes. Never actually visited Savannah. Want to do that. That's on the list. I know there's a lot of cool old plantation houses and stuff down there. Just pretty buildings to see. You know, don't exist for a good reason any longer. I mean, now they do, I guess. People live in them, but like why they got created, you know, obviously a sad point in our history, but you know, I can't go back and change that, and I don't have to celebrate that part of their existence. I can just enjoy the beauty of what they look like and so forth. Alright, Rhode Island. Very tiny place, so I'm sure this will be a very tiny time that we'll spend in here. Of course, they don't necessarily, maybe they do have signs and I'm just not terrible at seeing them. But in any event, you know, there may not be a sign and we may cross 3 other states before I see another one. Like, I may not see anything till I hit the Canadian border, and I know Rhode Island does not border Canada. So, but it's entirely probable that something crazy like that could happen. And I know we need to continue on 95 for a while, so I shouldn't have to look at the map. Providence is still in Rhode Island. Oh, Little Caesars, terrible, terrible pizza. It may be hot and ready, but it's terrible. And if you work for Little Caesars, I'm sorry for you. Go work for someplace that makes food that is edible. Yes, I'll tell you how I really feel.
Go straight on.
But, I don't know. I mean, as a high school or whatever, I certainly had my share of Little Caesars at times. I'm not proud, but it was what we could afford. But the good news is, whoa, I'm glad I didn't switch lanes. That bus moved to the right lane and then moved right back. I don't know why. Obviously because the driver felt like it. Probably because it knew the road was ending there. Even though the sign was backward and showed that the left lane was moving over. That was confusing me, but hey, another thing for the map folks to fix if they see this and hear it. So, fix your sign in here above Providence, because it's the wrong sign. Alright, people are exiting or moving over to a right lane. There's a lot of blinkers. Yeah, they're just giving another lane for some reason, but that's okay. And I'm thinking we gotta be out of Rhode Island almost, if not.
Get ready to exit right.
So, Portland, Maine, Bangor, Maine. Do I really need to exit right? Nope, that's what I figured. Oh yeah, see, we're way out. We're already in Massachusetts for a while. Manchester, I think that's Vermont, or New Hampshire, I mean. Yeah, Burlington's Vermont, so. Ooh, you can't connect to Canada there. You can just go down, but they didn't finish, or that's a map glitch because of the order I've loaded maps, as I figured out. Who knows? But either way, we're not going that way, and part of the reason we're not going that way is the GPS wouldn't take us that way because you can't connect. So, but it might just be something that they ran a little bit out of Montreal with the intent of eventually heading somewhere, and I'm sure, again, when SCS gets to this area of the country, 87 may connect to their 87, but right now, it goes nowhere. Alright, under 700 miles. Clipping along, which is always nice. 5 a.m., so it's going to start getting bright soon. We've still got little pinpoints of starlight, as Pumbaa would say. But, or or maybe Timon. I don't remember which one was the one that didn't understand it. I think it was actually Timon.
Straight on.
But I think Pumbaa might have still said they look like little pinpoints of light. Ooh, a Hyundai Veloster, I think, is what that is. I haven't pulled any new vehicle packs from Jazzy Cat in a long, long time. He's probably added some cool new things. I saw a Hyundai Venue the other day, which is almost like, reminded me of a Mini Cooper, which was kind of cool, because I like Mini Coopers, but I don't like their price. But Hyundais tend to be a lot more affordable, so I'm like, I'll have to keep an eye on this. Maybe that'll become a used car for me at some point. I don't know that I'd buy one new. I'm not opposed to potentially buying it new, but we're kind of at the point in our life where we don't really need new cars. We don't drive that much, again, especially with the pandemic. I'm blessed to be able to work from home right now. So my mileage has gone from, probably 100 to 200 miles a week to maybe 20. So, and that's usually just to go to the store. So, yeah. It used to be, okay, buy a new car, I could still probably get 10 years out of it. I think at this point, if I bought a new car, I'd probably be dead before the car would be used up. And so I don't know, like, why spend that money? But once again, if it's cheap enough, I don't know, I'd have to see what features it had, but just seeing it was in front of me in the Taco Bell drive-thru yesterday, and definitely caught my eye, because I like the Mini Cooper styling. I like the, kind of bigger back end to be able to put some things in when you go to the store that are oversized. My current Hyundai, I've got a Sonata, has a pretty decent sized trunk. It's perfect. It does a great job for any shopping we need. But if I need anything bigger, if I was, let's say, put a chair in there, or I don't think you could fit a bicycle in either a Mini Cooper or whatever. Alright, so we've gone through New Hampshire that little bit, and we're already up here in Maine. And then we'll be hitting Canada, because you know what? There's nothing north of Maine that is part of the United States. Even I know that. So this is good. So we might have less than 500 miles in Canada, which is even better, because we know how fun the Canadian maps are. But hey, maybe on this end of the continent, maybe they're incredible. I can hope. I'm being optimistic. But yeah, we're at 580 miles. I'm getting a little too close to that guardrail as I look over at my sim dashboard and then glance back. But yeah, I found, because like the Sonata, so there, that'll give us something to talk about, and it honestly might get us all the way to the end, because I could turn this into a long story. So back in the day, I'm going to make a political comment just because it just is there, and when we were trying to care about the environment, and we were worried about cars guzzling gas, we had a gas guzzler thing where they were trying to get the cars off the road, and so the government introduced this thing called cash for clunkers, which basically was, the intent was to get the old emissions poor vehicles off the road and incentivize people to replace them with newer cars. So you basically got a subsidy of up to $4,000, I think it was, depending on what you were getting rid of and what you were replacing. And sometimes, as with any of those kind of programs, and again, I get people argue, government programs sometimes are wasteful. Sometimes they are. Many times they are. I'll even give you that. But it's what we've got. And, just like Warren Buffett is like, hey, I pay the taxes I'm told to pay. I'd gladly pay more, but they don't require me to pay more, so I don't pay more. Same type of thing. Like, you live by the rules that you're given. And that's exactly what happened here. So we had a Ford Windstar at the time, which is a minivan, if you're unfamiliar with that. I think it made 24, 25 miles to the gallon. And there was an ability at the time to take advantage of the Cash for Clunkers program and get a Hyundai Santa Fe, which is an SUV, that only was like 2 or 3 miles per gallon better. But I think it put it at like 26 to 28. So it crossed the threshold. I think the target they were shooting for at that point was 25 to kind of get things that, as much as they could off the road that was making less than 25 miles per gallon and older, and get people in newer, more fuel-efficient vehicles that also hopefully burned cleaner and put out less harmful emissions into the atmosphere. And so we were able to take advantage of that, and I think we got the full $4,000. So it made it even more affordable. But what I found is at the time I was working, this happened when I was living in Nashville, and at the time I was in a corporate office, a corporate executive kind of C-level position that I was working there, and therefore I would, hang out, go to lunch with. I don't know that we truly became personal friends with anyone there that way that was at that level. The friends I had were more staff that were working for me and stuff like that are people I'm still in contact with. But they had the typical corporate executive cars: Mercedes, Lexus, Infiniti, BMW. And I had my Hyundai Santa Fe. And of course there were some questions at times like, well, why'd you do that? Why didn't you, you're replacing your car, why didn't you upgrade to something that they felt was appropriate, that met my station in employment? And I've never been one to kind of splurge and do the trappings. Again, very similar to Warren Buffett in that way, where he drives a pretty run-down old car most of the time, stops in at McDonald's for breakfast for $3, eats the same thing every day, super easy, whatever, and super frugal and inexpensive. It's just kind of how I operate as well. And so, as it is when you go to lunch with folks, one time you'll drive, one time they'll drive. And so after we had done this for a little while, after I had gotten this vehicle, I was obviously paying a little more attention to what their cars looked like. Again, I enjoy vehicles, but to me they're a tool to get me from point A to point B. Would I like to enjoy my tool more? Sure. I almost bought an orange Sonata because of that, because my favorite color is orange, and they had it available in a sport version, but it would have cost me $2,000 to basically get the same car, but be able to paint it orange. And it wasn't necessarily because of the paint, it was just the orange wasn't available in a base Sonata, and it was available only in that. But the features were like literally the same. I mean, there were a few differences, but so I didn't go with the orange. I've got a blue one, and it's fine. I like it. I enjoy it. It's actually an awesome car. It has some cool features that I wasn't looking for that I've grown to fall in love with. And in essence, that's what happened with the Santa Fe at the time. As I was looking at this thing, and even if I took away the $4,000 I got, because I don't know that I could have qualified with buying a BMW SUV or a Lexus SUV for the savings, and certainly because of the higher price tag, it wouldn't have really made financial sense to spend $30,000 or $40,000 more at that point on some vehicle that would, again, it's a tool to get me from point A to point B. We needed an SUV. We had young kids. We didn't want just a car at that point, but we felt, we didn't need, the minivan anymore. So we made the changes we made and took advantage of the program, and also, upgraded a car that was getting up to the point where, we had kind of felt, the timing was great, because we'd felt next year or two we would have been selling this off and getting something anyway, so we'll just do it a little bit earlier and take advantage of this free money. So it was awesome. But of the vehicles we had, like there weren't a lot that would have the passenger capacity and things we were looking for and still qualify. And so there was a very short list. And I think we could have gotten like a Toyota Sienna minivan, but we were like, well, we don't really need a minivan and not had an SUV, so let's try an SUV out. And absolutely loved the vehicle. And as I would drive in these Mercedes or whatever, I'd be like, my Santa Fe has more features and more automation than your Mercedes or Lexus or Infiniti does. And you spent $20,000 or more than I did. Like, it's stupid. Like, so yeah, why didn't I? Why did I get what I got? Because frankly, I made the smart decision and you just simply fell for the marketing. I didn't feel the car drove any better. I didn't feel whatever. There's always the, BMW, the ultimate driving machine. The cars are nice. They do drive well. An SUV is an SUV. Its center of gravity is higher off the road. You're not going to be doing anything fascinating in an SUV. Like, you don't need the ultimate driving machine in an SUV. You need an SUV to carry stuff and carry people. So we bought a Santa Fe, and then basically, when I was here, we kind of got to the point where it was more the decision of kids are now older. I was remarried, so different spouse, different desires, needs, things that they felt, we needed more in line with the frugality. And it's like, hey, we can buy something that is more fuel efficient, but is just a car, that'll handle 4 people, because, we're basically in a configuration point where we're, basically one of us, 2 of us, either me and my wife driving, and then maybe a couple kids. And there were times, that there might be 5, but it's like, if we don't get like a super tiny car, we can fit 5 if we have to. And yeah, are they going to be as happy as they would have been in a minivan where they had a little more room? No. But it's not going to happen that often, and it really hasn't. And it wasn't because of COVID. This was well before COVID too. But because of how much I appreciated what Hyundai had done with the Santa Fe and how much more value you got for the money, that got me to consider them first and foremost when I was looking to eliminate the Santa Fe. Because first off, they're going to give me more for the trade than anybody else will, because it's their vehicle. So anybody knows, if I have a Ford and I go back to a Ford dealer, I'm going to get more for the trade, because they're more likely to keep it on their lot and try to sell it as a used car, where someone else will put it in the used car auction and get rid of it. And so they're just, going to offer you as little as they possibly can. And so we took a look. I liked the Sonata. We could afford the payments. And like I said, other than the choice of, wow, I'd really like orange, but, because my wife was very much kind of supportive of the, hey, you've kind of had cars you've had to have, like, not that this is like a Corvette or something, like a typical midlife crisis vehicle, and I certainly was not having any kind of midlife crisis. I don't want to imply that in any way. Ooh, we're coming up on the Canada border. There's a decent amount of roads up here in this section of the map, so maybe it will be fun and exciting to drive through. But, she kind of encouraged me, like, get what you want rather than just kind of settling for something. And so I think she would have been, I know she would have been perfectly fine to just spend the extra money to have orange, but I'm like, I just couldn't get myself past it's a total waste of money, and it's a total ego thing, and, not even an ego thing, it's just look how cool this is, I have an orange car. And I've never seen another one of them on the road. Like, I think they are few and far between. And at the time, I think, like, Dodge Dart had you could get a Dodge Dart in orange, but, a Dart and a Sonata, very different cars Dart's much smaller, definitely not as well built. I mean, that was the thing that I realized with the Santa Fe. Like, they were a $20,000-$30,000 SUV compared to a $50,000-$60,000 SUV that I would say had better build quality, and just drove better than the cars that were double its cost. It made no sense to me, but certainly going the other way, where sure, I could have gotten a Dodge Dart for probably under $15,000. It probably would have been like 12 instead of paying the 30 or 34 we paid. Sticker price was the sticker price of it, because that's kind of the realistic comparison. So more than double and technically almost triple, but a Dodge Dart rattles. There's a lot that's going on. It's not going to last as long and so forth. So, I wasn't going to do that and make a poor decision again and have a vehicle that I knew couldn't last a long time, because my intent was, pay it off and I'll drive it until it runs into the ground. And, that's still what I'm doing. It's got, we're coming up on 140,000 miles. Now, to be fair, that is not on the main engine. I got lucky. I was testing out being a gig worker as a delivery driver, so I was doing things like Grubhub, DoorDash. I was also doing Instacart for a little while, just because I wanted to do a test for retirement. Like, hey, if I need to do something and make, say, $5,000, $10,000 extra a year, is it possible to do that with one of these things that requires basically no entry, that I'm not having to go off, interview, hope they give me a job, have to always work a set number of hours, that I have that flexibility of, hey, I need to make a few $100 this week, so I'll go do this. And again, $5,000 a year is $100 a week. $10,000 is $200 a week. And so on the surface, it seemed possible. And, my experiment of about a year, really, I guess it was 9 months, was, it's absolutely doable. In the 9 months I did it, and I was going pretty hard sometimes, using every moment I had to go ahead and do it. But it still wasn't crazy. I don't think I ever spent more than 10 hours a week on it. And, I made almost $9,000. So, I definitely proved out the fact, like, if I have to do it, I absolutely could do this. And, as long as I'm able to drive and walk, that's really all you need to qualify for those jobs and do them effectively. And, I had a lot more organizational skills and so forth that helped me do them even more effectively, which, probably drove to being able to be making that much in that time. Sorry, another cough, so that's why I stopped talking, as I was fumbling around trying to not run off the road. But I was able to average $20 to $25 an hour doing those jobs. It was great. But in the process,
Go straight on.
I wasn't putting a ton more miles on the car, because at that point, my timing was, I just happened to start it in February of 2020, and then a month later, we're locked down. So, and at that point, like, I could have stopped, certainly, but I kind of made the decision, those kind of workers were labeled as essential. I still had my regular job. I was blessed in that I never, lost my job, and I won't say at some point it wasn't in jeopardy. Our company, like every other company, didn't know what was going to happen and how much sales would tank. But things worked out really well. Both my wife and I were able to keep our jobs through the pandemic. But in that process, then basically from February to November of 2020, I was doing that work pretty much weekly. I mean, I was working it as if I was working it. Because even though it was an experiment, it wasn't like, yeah, I'll only do it when I feel like it. Like I was doing it with the intent of making it minimum that $100 a week, but I was, making much more than that. And some of that may have been pandemic related, especially in the beginning. That's kind of how I expanded it out to Instacart, because I was certainly intrigued with that whole model and how it worked. But at the time, like many elderly folks, couldn't go out, didn't want to go out, and I can't tell you how many people told me, like, if it wasn't for the service I was providing them, like, they may not have eaten that week because they were, there were people that had had open heart surgery and, like, could not go out. Like, it would be life-threatening for them at that point. And they're like, I don't know what I would have done if this wasn't available. So, they were extremely thankful. Some of them, were then extremely generous with their tips, where I would get $20, $30 tips. And all that helped add things up, but it wasn't like I was getting dozens of these or hundreds of them. A lot of them were probably what are typical orders that weren't inflated by pandemic nature. And I know I'm still getting pinged now by the apps like, hey, come drive again. $270 bonus if you do 20 orders, blah, blah, blah. So there's still a need. We're coming out of the pandemic. But while I was doing that, in August, I was coming up on 120,000 miles, and I obviously remembered distinctly, just as it will make more sense in this story when I continue with it and explain it, is I ended up at like 118,000, and the car was doing some weird things, like the check engine light would come on, and sometimes it would like shut off at the like when I'd stop or something. And it got to the point sometimes where I just was like putting the car in neutral and revving the gas a bit. I'm like, okay, there's obviously a problem. And I don't remember. I think it got a little bit worse. I don't know if the symptoms got worse or like the check engine light wouldn't go off at one point, what it was. But I said, I need to go get this thing checked out. Like, I'm going to get stranded on the side of the road, and then, my poor wife's going to have to come get me. And then I took it in and expected, they're going to have to fix something, obviously. But suddenly, they come back to me in the waiting room, and they're like, you need a new engine. And I was thinking, like, well, I guess this car had a good run. I guess it's done, because I'm like, I'm not going to spend $5,000-$6,000 to put a new engine into a car. I'll probably just, I hadn't been making car payments on the vehicle for a couple years, so I'm like, it's time, I guess. And again, I got almost 120,000 miles out of it. That's pretty good. But before I could even say anything, they continued in the next breath and said, but, under your warranty, that'll be covered by Hyundai. And of course, I didn't say much other than, oh, wow, that's great. So I got a brand new, I think it was rebuilt, but, for all intents and purposes, it's a new engine put into the vehicle at 118,000 miles. So I've got like 20,000 miles on that engine now. So, as I said, I can't say, but what ended up happening and what I think was occurring, and why that was covered by Hyundai was they had a defect in the engines that basically were putting metal shavings into various parts of the engine, including like the cylinder heads and so forth. And so in essence, that's what they told me had happened, is basically I had metal shavings all throughout the engine, and like there's no way to like clean it out. Like your only option is replace the thing, because even if you could clean it out, it would just continue. And so because it was a defective engine, they had in essence kind of been extending the engine warranty perpetually to make it basically a lifetime warranty, that whenever your engine failed per this type of thing, and I think at that point, to avoid lawsuits, it was if your engine failed for anything, because they didn't seem to really indicate like because you had this particular issue, that's why they just were saying, Hyundai's covering engine replacements for your make and model of vehicle, and so this will be covered. And as I did some research later, like, why would they do this? Because I was trying to figure out, did I buy some extended warranty? Because I usually don't do that. And the best I could determine, I never really got an official answer, but the best I could determine was that was the situation. And so, at this point, I've got probably, hopefully, at least another 80,000 miles or more if I want, where I can run this car. So it's not like I need a car anytime soon. But that's also then why it was interesting to me when I see a Hyundai that catches my eye. I'm absolutely willing to think of it as like this could be a real potential, because I've loved Hyundais and I've literally fell into them by accident because of the Cash for Clunkers program. Like, I would have never considered, I wasn't even looking like, ooh, I want a Hyundai. The only reason I even looked at it was because to replace the Ford Windstar and get the deal in the Cash for Clunkers thing, that was one of my two options, and the other one was basically, just another minivan, and I think it was, again, same mileage thing, but we were just like, we don't really need a minivan anymore, and so why drive something that big? And we kind of wanted to try the SUV thing, so that's how it happened, and I'm a Hyundai fan until, maybe they start making poor products. And I know, early on they were known, pretty cheap and inexpensive like everything else, but they've really gone to that model of they jam stuff into their vehicles but keep the cost low. So, I had mentioned there's things in my Sonata that, again, I wasn't looking for that I just love. The main one is adaptive cruise control, which is kind of this, radar assisted cruise control, and this is in a 2015 model vehicle, so this is, now a 7-8-year-old vehicle, definitely at a time, before there were Teslas and auto drive and whatever, and this is an auto drive, but this adaptive cruise control will bring the car to a complete stop and then start it again from a dead stop. So short of taking my hands off the wheel and it's steering the car for me, it's as close to auto drive as I've ever been. And because I literally don't have to touch the gas or the brake, for hundreds of miles at times. And so, like, when I was doing the food delivery, it was terrific because, I think a lot of food delivery workers have the challenge of you're trying to make your delivery, you're doing whatever, and, you get stopped for 1 or 2 speeding tickets, aside from what it does to your insurance costs. But, you're paying a $120 ticket. Suddenly, your profits are getting chewed up because of all of that, aside from the fact that, you're losing and probably half an hour to an hour waiting to get your ticket written out. I use it around town because it operates at such a slow pace, where a lot of times, like, you need to be at 30, 40 miles an hour for cruise control to engage. Like, the adaptive cruise control will operate at any speed. Like, I can turn it on at 10 miles an hour. I mean, I usually don't. I usually go faster. But it will operate because it takes the car to a full stop and starts. Like, I can use it in city traffic, and I would do that, and I could stay at, what I felt was a safe amount over the speed limit, where I'm unlikely to get stopped. To be ultra conservative, I set my target at 7 miles over, and, so I would do that, and just never had a problem. And it also had Android Auto. I think it was the first U.S. car to have that available. Again, I didn't even have a clue. Like, I had already purchased the vehicle before they're like, oh, it has this thing. I'm like, oh, cool. And then I researched it. I'm like, this is actually pretty neat. And it was kind of fun. It's quirky. It's not the greatest thing. Ooh, that was awfully close. And frankly, I don't use it a lot now, but for a time period, you know, it basically did a better job than my internal navigation did, because I could use Google Maps and it ran off my phone. So obviously that was much more updated, and also included like live traffic, which my in-car nav would not without a paid subscription of some sort, but I could do it for free with Android Auto. So, you know, and those are just kind of some of the things. I mean, but it has like a full-length sunroof that kind of runs from the front to the back seat of the car. You know, and just, you know, heated steering wheels, heated and cooled seats, just all kinds of, you know, what people would consider luxury features, but in a car that doesn't have a luxury price. And that's what I found in the Santa Fe, and that's absolutely what I saw in the Sonata. So my expectation is, like, while a Mini Cooper, again, I've never driven one, whatever, I like the way they look, but I'm sure, again, because, you know, it's a BMW type nameplate, it's probably got some bells and whistles in it, but my guess is this Hyundai Venue that looks like it's probably got twice as many bells and whistles in that thing, and it's probably at least 33% less, if not 50% less than what I would pay for a Mini Cooper with the same thing. So that's why it caught my eye. And look at that, we're 40 miles away from our delivery point. And I got my story in, and at least I told you something that didn't have to do with politics and get everybody all polarized and irritated. I mean, they still may be polarized. People might be like, I'm not going to buy a Hyundai because of whatever, but that's a different thing. That van is doing, it's changing, like totally changing vans as it drives. That's kind of freaky. So now it's like a two-door with no windows. Then it was like a one with windows. Just weird. But anyway. All right. So let's see. Down to 25. Pretty soon on the mini map, I think we're gonna see where we need to go. But all right. So I go around the loop. And that makes sense because I'm going to Halifax, and I have 41 minutes. So we'll see. The time is really ticking down fast. So it's going to be close. At least the thing is, the guardrail's on the outside here. 35 minutes, 16 miles. See if I'm going to make this. This will be tough.
Exit left.
But I'm committed now, and this shouldn't be that hard to park, so I think I'll be alright. But it's going to be possible the minutes will be below the miles pretty soon. Because, yeah, now I think I'm only like 15 apart. Yeah, now I'm 11 apart. So I'm 8 miles, 19 minutes. 8 miles, 18. Now I'm 10 apart. So, yeah, it's shrinking. But I'm also now going faster, so that will help. Don't you dare make me hit the gas. See, it's one of those fancy SUVs. They think they own the road, but luckily they stayed in their place because I'm a big truck and they don't want to play with me. Alright, so we will do that. So here's Halifax, which we've now discovered, which gives us all the fun of whatever's here. So this is where we could have a problem, because in the mod maps the time does tick down very, very quickly. Right now it's 1 mile, 4 minutes. So again, I shouldn't have a penalty unless I really, really have a hard time parking. And I've got almost 300 miles of gas, so this has worked out quite well. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and
Get ready to turn right.
see where we end up here.
Turn right.
Because my guess is we're going to be well over 40,000 miles. 40,000. 4,000. Oh, there's one of the cars we're delivering. Maybe they just took it off another carrier, although again, we're delivering to the rail yard, so I don't know if that makes sense. Alright, 0 miles, 1 minute.
Get ready to turn right.
There it is, I see the sign. So the trick is here there are some challenging parking options sometimes. So let's see. Here we are. So let's look. So oh, there it is. So, alright, so we're gonna go ahead. You know what? I'm thinking I'm just gonna pull in this way, and I'm just gonna position it the other way, because this is a pretty short trailer in the grand scheme of things, and I should be able to kind of come up here and almost put it straight back then. I mean, I'm going to have to turn some, so I'm going to have to give myself enough room to maneuver. But no, what I was thinking is sometimes you have to park in that space there. So this is actually a lot easier, but that also likely means I'm only going to get 40 experience for parking. I don't think this is going to give me the 90 for the most difficult, but it's alright. And again, obviously, this isn't difficult. I'm likely going to make it on the first try. Doing this pretty well. I might be over a bit too far. We'll see if it gives it to us or not. Yep, there we go. Alright, so let's see what we have got. So 4,276 miles. See, so we got a damage penalty. So we literally negated our entire fragile cargo bonus, and we only had 3.7% damage. But, you know, we did get more XP there. That also translates in, well, you know, frankly, it's more XP for everything. But we did only get 40. You know, but as you can see, we're at the point now where we're talking, 5,000, 6,000 experience points per level. And this is the challenge with Fragile. It is just so easy to run into problems that, sometimes it's just not worth the effort. But, let's see. I might just go ahead and finish the just-in-time deliveries. We'll clear out the upgrades, as we always do, but we're at level 22, so that'll give us a few new things, but definitely not enough to where we want to go. And again, we're a ways away. We just barely made it into 22, so that was the thing. Like, we would have had another 1,200 or something, and you can see the slope dropped a bit versus, here we got 7,900. There we did get 8,600, so we got more we got 10,000. There you go. For the dynamite, and obviously quite a bit of money. Alright, so we did finish. I will poke around a bit. I'll of course report at the start of the next episode if and what got changed, and we'll continue on, but looks like Coast to Coast series is able to continue after an insane amount of hoop jumping. I will see you next time.